Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. I'm Mike Graham and this is the Mike Graham Show, and it is indeed 7:01. My apologies for being slightly tardy, but I was trying to figure out what was going on with all my various different devices here. It's 7:01 and 58 seconds according to the international clock. As you can see behind me, one of them is exactly right, one of them is slightly off. Don't worry about it. We've got a few things to clear up today. A bit of housekeeping. We've got all the papers here. We've got Stephen Barrett, our favourite barrister, to talk to. We've got to tell you the latest in the Peter Mandelson story, the latest in the Prince Andrew story. I've actually got to move slightly to the right as well. There we go. How about that? Because Pooch has got a little mark here for me, which I have to make sure that I sit and line my tie up with every time, and sometimes I forget. Some very, very good stories to talk about, of course, as well. And also, we're going to be telling you about a live show that we're doing in May at the Shepherd's Bush Empire, which, believe it or not, is the venue which is so iconic and famous that the Foo Fighters are going to play there a few weeks before we are. Imagine that. So I'm going to be treading in the footsteps of Dave Grohl in the dressing room. I'm going to be preparing myself with a whole cast of friends that are going to be with me. And we're going to be doing it in the company of, amongst others, Mr. Stephen Barrett. Let's say a very good morning to him. Stephen, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. I'm particularly excited about that, Mike.
It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. We haven't quite worked out the format yet, but we're just going to do something similar to what we do here every day, where we sit and discuss matters of state. We sit and discuss things that are important and things that might be less important, but very nevertheless, necessary to discuss. And today, what I want to start off with you, before we look at all the main headlines of the day, is this ludicrous situation which you highlighted on your Twitter page yesterday, that we're being told once again by lawyers who should know better, oh, we mustn't prejudice a case because therefore we can't discuss anything. It's so annoying. I find it so irritating because I, like you, have been I've been dipped in the law. I wasn't clever enough to actually study it, but I did do A-level law, and I thought about being a lawyer at one point. And people have often said to me that my kind of my method of arguing is kind of lawyerly, and I take that as a compliment, But this idea that we are somehow constantly being told we can't discuss a case for fear of prejudicing a trial, which hasn't even been arranged yet because nobody's been charged, is nonsense, isn't it? This is all about how papers revolving around Peter Mandelson and Keir Starmer cannot be seen until after Keir Starmer's left number 10.
Yeah, and it's complete nonsense, because turn it on its head and just ask, well, hang on a second, the man's not even been charged with a criminal offence. So if you start bleating on about prejudicing a trial, aren't you prejudicing a trial by presuming that there will be one? The entire thing is complete nonsense. And it's the way in which our goodness is used against us, and our goodness is used as a control technique to stop us from asking, difficult questions, or for pointing out that the Prime Minister needs to resign because he always knew about Peter Mandelson, which, is ultimately what's going on. And the Prime Minister wants to defy Parliament. I think Parliament should be extremely robust with him if he doesn't give them the papers, because they have ordered it. They have come together through their process and procedure, but effectively as a court of law, they have ordered it, because that is what Parliament is. Whether Parliament remembers that or not, that is what Parliament is. And if he defies them, then they should. I mean, the old days they should send the sergeants at arms and they should throw him in the cell.
Yeah.
But if he defies them, I think that they should expel him from their house, because this is extremely serious stuff. You have been ordered by a vote of the House of Commons to do something. You will do it. And I don't know how to express that more clearly than if I were ordered by a High Court judge to do anything, I would do it. Yes. I mean, not slaughter the firstborn children, but that's what we do. You must obey the law, and this Prime Minister is trying to use every trick to get out of obeying the law. And by the way, Mike, we're watching live hypocrisy, because they don't bat two eyelids over Prince Andrew's stuff, do they? Right. They don't worry at all about prejudicing him. Oh, there's a dramatic event in the Louvre. Oh, ha ha ha, terribly amusing. No worry about prejudicing a trial there. I mean, this is just ridiculous. I always seek consistency, as you well know.
Yes.
And my consistent position is that until somebody is charged, there can be absolutely no risk of prejudicing a trial. Indeed, you risk prejudicing a trial just by presuming one, because everybody is innocent until presumed guilty. Everyone.
Yeah.
And then we put faith in our judges to behave as Mr. Justice Goose did with Axel Rueda Cabana, with great muscle and the ability to defend and protect trials. If people go out of their way to deliberately try and hurt a trial, then of course. But I think really with this idea that we're all going to walk on eggshells about accidentally prejudicing some potential possible future trial is just a control technique that our sadistic Prime Minister uses, and it's using our own goodness against us.
Yes, because let's compose ourselves and look at what it is that they're trying to stop us from seeing, because that normally is a pretty good clue as to why they're doing it, right? And what they're trying to do is to make sure that while Keir Starmer is clinging on for dear life to his ridiculously badly kind of run job, that nobody can point the finger at him and say, well, hang on a minute, here's some proof that you knew what was going on. This is not about Peter Mandelson and any possible future trial. This is all about the Prime Minister trying to protect his own bloody hopelessness, isn't it?
It is. And let's be absolutely honest, Mike. We live in a real world. We're playing with live ammo, as they say. We could be invaded by a foreign power today. If we were, our Prime Minister has absolutely no authority. He is a dead man walking. He should have resigned over now multiple scandals. There's another one breaking with Jonathan Powell and his national security advisor, which I suspect won't get very much attention because we simply have too many scandals with this man. The man is saturated with reasons to resign. He literally doesn't need any more. He just needs to go. And the Labour Party needs to look at itself now, and we all need to be holding the Labour Party to account. Every single Labour MP is responsible for keeping this pathetic, just keel-hauled, dead Prime Minister walking in office. And we need to look to them. And I would call out to those good Labour MPs, and there are some. That's what people forget. The lovely man who rebelled over the farm inheritance tax. Graham Stringer MP is one I always like to flag up.
Yes.
But there are good people in that Labour Party. There are good MPs there. They're not all, they didn't all take money from Labour together, which, by the way, again, is another reason that the Prime Minister should resign. It's just we're just swarming in these things. But the Labour MPs need to take action, and they need to form, and they need to talk to other MPs in the House, and we need to talk about a way that we get rid of this man because he's not going voluntarily.
No, he's really not.
Obviously not going.
No, I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday that, will he cling on if Labour don't win the Gorton and Denton by-election? Probably. Will he cling on if they get completely slaughtered and humiliated at the May local elections? Probably. Because he clearly has no moral compass of any kind. He feels no shame. He doesn't care that people know he's a liar. He goes up to Gorton and Denton yesterday, or the day before, and refuses to meet with members of the public because he knows that if he does that, he gets completely slaughtered by them. So he goes and sort of stunts up a visit to a constituency which used to be one of Labour's safest seats, and he can only operate inside a room where people have been literally paid to cheer him.
Yeah, and I mean, to be perfectly honest, we don't, because it's this Prime Minister, we don't even know that room was genuinely in Gorton. And
very true.
It just wouldn't surprise me at this point, Mike. Nothing about him surprises me. And I, during my life, I've had periods when I've been exceptionally poor, but I've always had my honour. That's what I've had, and it's a core component of how I go about my life. And this man is a man with no honour. Yeah. And I find that deeply shocking. I find that reprehensible. The idea that he is our Prime Minister, that he is the advisor. And let's be honest about how our Constitution works. That means he's the first minister advising the king. So the king, our king, who literally the minute I hear that word, I think of King Arthur. The king is being advised by a man with no honour. I'm sorry. At no period in British history has that ever been acceptable. Yeah. It never will be acceptable. And again, I would just call out to Labour MPs. They are the people who can really shift this. They can actually, I think, restore some of the honour to their party if they do. But if they don't, then they are endorsing this corpse of a Prime Minister, this dead man walking, this joke of a government that, as I say, I mean, thank goodness it's very unlikely, and I'm touching wood, that we're going to be invaded today or tomorrow or anytime soon. But we could be. That is the reality of life. And we need to have a functioning government with capable, responsible, honourable people in it. And the
Yes.
fact that we don't is absolutely shocking.
It is absolutely shocking. And as you say, the longer it goes on, the more those people who continue to support him also have no honour and lack any kind of, sense and sensibility to reveal themselves as anything other than patsies for a man who is a lost soul, effectively. He has not got any mandate now to be in charge of this country. He has been given the thumbs down. If it was gladiator time, it would be, where are we there? It would be thumbs down for Keir Starmer, and he'd be being led off to the bleeding gallows, basically. But let's talk about Peter Mandelson, because Mandelson, of course, as you would expect, still probably in his heart of hearts doesn't think he's done anything wrong, has basically put out his own PR message now overnight to say the reason that I was arrested was a bogus one. I had already done a deal with the police to go and see them next month. And they've suggested that I was going to be a flight risk and I was going to fly off to the British Virgin Islands and never be seen again. Absolute rubbish. Couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, this man is such a liar that even he doesn't know he is.
Yeah, I think this is a point that is very well made, is that he's trying to attack the police for not trusting him. Well, I don't trust you. So yeah. I think that the officers are perfectly in their place to not trust you. Anyone with common sense wouldn't trust you. The Prime Minister needs to resign because he stupidly trusted you. This is so the idea that you can play victim and go, poor me, because people don't trust you. Obviously, no one trusts you. I mean, that is a personal, moral question. But this is absolutely ridiculous. I would say that in Mishcon he really does have first-class legal representation. Yes. And it's glad that you flag it up as a PR exercise, because I'm afraid lawyers now are far from just in the courtroom, and they will be liaising with PR experts. They will be liaising with all types of people. There will be media strategy meetings. There will be a plan. There will be a management going on. But ultimately, even the brilliance that is Mishcon is going to crash into reality at some point, and let's see when and if that comes. This story is just pathetic. And I think what it does is it's designed clearly to put pressure on the police. And I hope the police ignore it. And I hope the police hear the good voices of support from the general public, that they should simply plow head on, without fear or favour. Still presume innocence. We're never, ever, ever giving up the presumption of innocence. Ever, 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 ever. But do your job and investigate this man, no matter what he says, no matter the silly tales he comes out with. It's one of the Labours of Hercules, where he had to fight a shapeshifter who just kept changing form in order to try and get away from Hercules. Yes. And all Hercules had to do was to keep holding on to this thing, no matter what it turned into. And so no matter what Mandelson turns into, justice must we pursue. And that he still may be innocent. I genuinely will not give up the presumption of innocence for anybody. So let's just pursue justice, and let the police know that we've got their back. So no matter what this man says during the process is irrelevant. Let's just ignore him. Don't give him any credibility. And no, it's a personal question of morality, whether you trust Peter Mandelson or not. And I don't trust him.
No, and you're quite right not to trust him. And I find the media's coverage of this story to be completely and utterly banal and without any sort of curiosity at all. Curiosity is a word I like to use a lot when it comes to the way that journalism is now practiced, because nobody's curious. The Times, what used to be known as the Thunderer, the establishment newspaper, which is so far up Keir Starmer's arse that you could literally pull out page 3 from this buttocks. It says, Mandelson flight risk fiction led to my arrest, as if it's a true story, right? They even quote inside the story a spokesman for the Lord Speaker, Lord Forsyth of Drumlean, who says Mandelson's claim that he had spoken to Scotland Yard was, in his words, entirely false and without foundation. So are you running it then? Why are you running it as if it's a true story? And then they quote Mandelson saying that, you know, his plan to leave to go to the Virgin Islands couldn't possibly be true because he would not leave Ronaldo, his husband, he wouldn't leave his family home, and he wouldn't leave his dog, Jock, behind him. I mean, it's just nonsense. And I can't believe that this is the pettiness and the most ridiculousness of our media now. If the Times, you know, supposedly one of the most serious newspapers in the world, can cover this story on its front page as its main story, it's really, really pathetic, isn't it?
It is absolutely pathetic, but I think we have all sadly come to the conclusion that the mainstream media is very largely captured.
Yeah.
That it's run not by fierce independent journalists, but by compliance departments who are more worried about upsetting government or upsetting the woke message or stepping out of line on something than they are about informing the public. And very sorry to say that, Mike, but that's why shows like yours are necessary. That's why the independent media has arisen. We should thank goodness that we live in a world in which that's been possible.
Yeah.
You know, when I was a child, it wouldn't have been possible. So had the media been captured back then, you know, we'd be in a much worse place than we are today.
Yes.
Thank goodness we have the independent media, which can actually, you know, have some backbone and laugh at Peter Mandelson and not simply accept his PR guff.
Yeah, absolutely right. I could not agree with you more. People are asking if we can see, before we move on, your Keir Starmer impression, because they liked it so much the last time. So the opportunities are for you there.
I can't remember doing one. But I mean, this is Keir Starmer, as always, and he has no tonal intonation at all, and he doesn't get excited about anything. He just carries on doing an absolutely appalling job.
Yes, and telling us all how much he cares about Britain and how he wants to continue his way of changing the country. And I just know that everyone at the same time shouts out, "Stop changing the country. We don't want you to change the bloody country, you complete numpty." Something else that bothers me, and I know you were tweeting about this last night when it came out, the Daily Mail's front page, Greens plan to hand illegal migrants free house, a wage and free NHS care. So this is the latest nonsense and guff from Zach Polanski, you know, the man who thinks that he can increase the size of women's breasts just by looking at them. What on earth is going on? And why do people give this guy any credibility at all?
Well, for a start, Mike, let's just point out that this is also Labour policy.
Yes.
So one of the funniest things is that as the left splinters into many different parties, they nonetheless all seem to have exactly the same policy. And this, by the way, is exactly the same policy of the Democrats in the United States,
Yes.
who during Mr. Trump's State of the Union refused to stand when Mr. Trump asked them to support a very simple proposition, which is that it is their job to look after citizens of the United States, not illegal migrants.
Yes.
That is something that would have been accepted as absolute truth by everybody across the political spectrum when I was a child. When I say that there are members of the Labour Party I respect, they are the ones who accept that as an absolute truth, that the duty of our country is to look after our citizens, who, by the way, Mike, are diverse already and have been for hundreds of years. Because if people are going to go down the ethno-nationalist route, I'm going to fight them on that, because we've been diverse for a very long time, but we're still us. And there is a difference between us and people who illegally come here. And people who illegally come here do not get, or should not get, free stuff. And if it's the policy of the Labour Party and the policy of the Green Party to just give free stuff to people who illegally come here, then one, they'll bankrupt us all. But two, they are just moral degenerates. That is absolutely betraying your nation. You know, our nation matters. We all matter. We all get up in the morning, some of us really early to go on things like this. And, you know, we make the packed lunches, we do the washing, we do the dry, we make the country work. We pick up litter, we get on the train, we act, you know, with politeness and manners and decency throughout the day. You know, we put our rubbish in the bin. This is what we do. We don't break into other people's nations and get free stuff. And human beings who break into other people's nations and then get free stuff are inherently bad people. And by the way, Mike, many of them go on to commit incredibly serious crime. So again, what on earth does the Green Party think it's doing? And I really hate this idea that they've gone full sectarian up in this by-election. And I really hate, because I've got British Pakistani friends, the idea that my friends would support the Green Party who believe in all this nonsense rather than want to live a nice life with laws and rules, want their children to succeed and do well at school. This idea is just absurd. It's immensely patronizing. But this is what the Green Party are. They don't care about the environment. It's obviously a lie now. They're just communists.
Yes, they really are. And I mean, as you say, we played it yesterday and we made the plank of the day for it. The Urdu message that went out in a foreign language in a British city in order to try and gauge the sort of the engagement, if you like, of a foreign community who have no interest in being part of Britain, who have no interest in what happens in Britain, don't want to be British, don't want to celebrate anything that is British. And quite frankly, I wonder why and whether these people who don't speak English should have a vote at all.
Well, that's a big constitutional question, and I think that's a matter for us all to have a deep think about. There was a very funny tweet by one of our leading Jewish journalists that he was looking forward to the video in Hebrew.
Yes.
And that, whilst that is very funny, I do think it's a part of intellectual reflection for us to think that actually, don't Jews do this rather well? Because they maintain their own inherent culture. You know, that's what British Jewish people do. They still have their Jewish identity, but they are very British and they are integrated and they are fully British. And that's what we should want for everybody. That is the solution. You know, so that everybody can have their, differences, but that we are fundamentally one nation and one people who support each other. And actually, probably because the British Jewish community spends so much time being attacked and getting vile abuse, we maybe don't reflect that actually maybe they're the ones doing it right.
Yes, exactly right. A couple of other stories to mention on the front pages. This is one for you because of its involvement with the legal business. Ministers will launch blitz courts in the biggest shake-up of criminal justice in 50 years, which will also include the ditching of jury trials for many offences. This is according to Times journalist, legal editor Jonathan Ames. This is all part of David Lammy's kind of restructuring, if you like, of the collapsed judicial system in this country. I'm not sure really that anything can fix it at this moment. Are you?
Well, day after day after day, courts across the land are empty and not in use because the government is incompetent at its job. Largely, by the way, this is fundamentally a Tony Blair problem. So he took the courts out and he put them in this thing called an independent governmental body, and it runs itself, i.e. it's not accountable to anybody. It's not even accountable to whoever the Justice Secretary or the Lord Chancellor is right now. Labour's changed so much, I can't even remember who's got what job. But it's not directly accountable to the minister. So that's why the courts sit empty. And that's been a major part of the backlog. Another part of the backlog is that we don't appoint enough judges because, again, we've given that off to an independent body. And just so your viewers know, independent just means unaccountable. They don't answer to anybody. They just take the money. They sit there, they mumble, they mutter some words in a committee meeting, and then everything is, shelved off for the next month. It's not even active management. They're not even actively destroying the country. They're just incompetent.
Yes.
And this is what President Trump called a socialist state. He called it nasty and incompetent. And our state is nasty and incompetent. And we have a backlog because our state is incompetent. So we do not need to throw away our 800-year-old right to jury trials or have it taken away by the intellectual likes of David Lammy just because they are incompetent at their day job. And we really must resist jury trials. If we don't resist the stealing of jury trials, then we have become a weak and spineless race. We really have. We've become a country that is absolutely pathetic. 800 years we've had this. 800 years we've needed it. We need it now. Do not let them steal jury trials.
No.
There's also, Mike, just a side story, is the use of AI in courts. That is part of this two-tier nonsense. Believe you me, absolutely nobody in the Labour Party, absolutely nobody in the senior echelons of the British government and the blob will use the AI courts. It will only be used by ordinary people. And what they're doing is this patronising way in which ordinary people get a lesser service than anyone else. And the king should intervene on justice. because justice is fundamentally his job, and he should treat us all as one people, because we are all one people.
Yes, I think that's absolutely right. What's interesting is I heard some statistics this morning actually about jury trials, that in fact jury trials are more likely to find the perpetrator or the accused guilty than judges are, because apparently when in judge-only cases, about 55% of people are found guilty, but in jury trials it's more like 80%. And I think some people would think that that's a surprise, because they would like to think that actually juries are more willing, shall we say, to forgive individuals, but in fact it turns out to be the complete opposite.
Well, I think the judges will just be lent on. So that's I mean, it's one of the reasons I think the judges should reject this. I think they should refuse to sit without juries. I think what you'll get, Mike, is all sorts of political pressure. So when the prisons are full, I think they'll be lent on to find people not guilty. When the person before them is a mum on Twitter who happens to have a conservative counsellor for a husband, I think they'll be lent on to find them guilty. You know, I just don't trust any of this process. And humans aren't complicated. Humans don't change. At no point in human history has it been wise to have one man or woman deciding guilt or innocence. That's why we invented the jury system. It hasn't become obsolete. It remains the best solution.
Absolutely right. Let me ask you about Bridget Phillipson. Speaking of one person making decisions on behalf of an awful lot of other people, she was doing the rounds at the weekend. She was also on Nick Ferrari's show yesterday. Pooch, I think we've got a clip of Bridget Phillipson unable to answer a very simple question. Have a look.
Can a 5-year-old go to school and decide that he wants to be called by a girl's name and that he is a she? Are you comfortable with that?
We've been clear that in primary schools we need to tread with a lot of care.
That didn't actually answer the question, Secretary. Are you comfortable with that?
Well, this was usually where it involves a parent's decision to support their child in that way. So part of the balance here is that, of course, often parents will be supporting.
But the child could just tip up at school, couldn't he or she?
Well, we think this. We think this.
Did you know? Does everyone know at 5 whether they want to be a man or a woman?
That's part of what actually Hilary Cass said in her review, that in allowing children just to consider who they are, to behave in ways that might not be aligned with their sex or their gender. So if a boy wants to wear dresses, we should just, if we allow that to work, children will experiment at different points. They will consider who they are. That just taking a watchful approach, not coming down too hard on that, actually reduces what we see in terms of children moving towards a more medicalised model. And the guidance that we've published, Dr. Hilary Cass has welcomed. She thinks it's the right approach in supporting children and their well-being. And I think it would be exceptionally rare for primary schools to be operating that. But I've also been clear that in anything in that space, unless there are very strong safeguarding reasons where a child is at risk of harm, parents should be involved in those important decisions.
What the hell is she actually saying? I mean, that would be my question.
Well, she's not saying anything, Mike. So again, just for your viewers to explain this phenomena, because that's about the whole trans thing, but it doesn't really matter what the subject matter is. The left don't want clear rules. They don't want the rule of law. They don't want us to know what the rules are and what they should be. They don't want us to have certainty, because the more uncertain we are, that allows them two outcomes. One, we will be afraid and therefore much more compliant and easier to control. And the second is that they'll be able to get different outcomes based on who they are. So they will get special treatment, because the left are all about themselves getting special treatment. This, the actual subject, is particularly upsetting to me, Mike, because I don't think I'm particularly feminine now. I think I'm probably, being a dad has probably toughened me up a lot. Silly hair aside, I think I'm quite tough now. But I was quite an effeminate little boy. And I just worry that effeminate little boys will be pushed into dresses by parents who aren't happy with their children, and that the whole thing will become really quite abusive of children. I think we should have clear rules, clear lines, which is that little boys wear trousers, and that just seems to me a very simple line that we can maintain at all levels. It doesn't stop anybody growing up to be gay or like me, bisexual. It doesn't stop anybody. It doesn't hinder anybody in any way. And this whole idea of gender in children just strikes me as deeply perverse, incredibly unsettling. And I really don't like the idea that people are looking at children and even asking these questions.
Yeah.
Why are you just get out of primary schools? Just get out of them. As a young man, Mike, I held open the door for drag queens at 2 a.m. in the morning at the nightclub Heaven. I do not want drag queens in primary schools. Get them out. Get them out.
It's a pretty straightforward point, isn't it? It shouldn't need explanation. It shouldn't need you to have to justify that or to apologise for it or to somehow, make people aware of the fact that you are very much an inclusive individual. You just have a view. It's bloody well common sense, isn't it?
It is common sense, and actually, I get very annoyed that even when I use my identity, I get very annoyed at myself. I just think it's pathetic that we need to have. It's like my mate Chris Rose. I think is he on after me?
I think he is. Yeah. He's a
Chris
great guy.
Always gets dragged out to point out that it's not racist, and it's like, well, that's great, but you shouldn't just have to drag Chris out all the time.
Right.
We all know this. We all know how to be one inclusive people. You're heterosexual, Mike. I think you're free to comment on issues about sexuality and gender. They trapped us in the first instance by making us feel like we had to use our identity characteristics just to fight identity. We should just get rid of this in one go. Say that we are one British people, that we all support each other. None of us are any ists or isms or discriminating against anyone else. We just don't want this nonsense in primary schools. Stay away from the kids.
Yes, absolutely right. Leave the kids alone. Finally, just one last question for you about driverless cars. There's a story in the Times about a driverless car company which is hoping to set up in Britain. Have just raised something like $1.5 billion in investment. I was talking to Pooch earlier. He looks forward to driverless cars. I'm really, really not comfortable with them at all. I just wanted to know how you feel about driverless cars.
Well, I'm going to be completely biased, Mike, because I can't drive. So they seem like a good idea to me. With my legal hat on, they do seem like a complete nightmare because what happens when the inevitable happens and they do something like kill someone?
Right.
Who is liable in that situation and scenario? And that is a massive problem. But I mean, fundamentally, if we can make them work, maybe. But I'm not convinced by any of this. And I also would quite like to flag, I'm really not convinced by AI. Okay. It feels like a computer program that's designed to trick you into believing it understands and is having a conversation with you.
Yes.
It does not understand the words it's using. It's a sham. The whole thing is a sham. It's a fraud. That's what's going on. And the idea that AI is going to take jobs, I think is nonsense. And I want to warn people right now, do not use AI to do law. Okay, it can't do it. We've had so many instances where it just makes stuff up.
Right. It makes a lot of it because it trawls basically what's on the internet, and an awful lot of stuff that's on the internet isn't real and isn't true, and so the facts are kind of lost in the AI translation, if you like.
Yes. And I think that people aren't getting this, and people are treating it like some sort of higher power. You see it on Twitter. People sort of invoke it like a living god, and it's like it's just a search engine. Right. That's all it is. It's just a search engine that repeats stuff back to you. It doesn't know or understand anything. It's not intelligence. And I think we need to get much tougher on all of this. But yeah, driverless cars, Mike, are a legal minefield. I don't envy the judge who has to deal with the first case.
No, exactly right. I'm not getting in one at all. I'm just not interested. Stephen, thank you so much. Brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Great to talk to you. Great to see you as ever. As I said, Stephen will be appearing with us in the live show on May the 6th, Wednesday night at Shepherd's Bush Empire. Tickets still available on Ticketmaster. Stephen, have a great day. Thank you very much indeed. That was a great message that just came up there about his lampshade, was it? Just before I let you go, something about your lampshade. Yeah, please tell Stephen to straighten his lampshade. It's been like that for months. I mean,
it's
really?
on my big list. All right, I run a household. My most important job is that I'm a single father. I've got 2 dogs. I've got work to do. It's on the list. Okay,
right.
People, it's on the list.
How are the dogs? Because we're very keen on dogs on this show. What are the 2 dogs and what are their names?
The two dogs are very happy and very jolly. They are Bella and Biscuit. And Biscuit is the baby boy because he's just the biggest, sweetest thing in the world. He's a golden lab.
Oh,
So
wow.
I often think it's quite funny. If we get burgled, the burglar will probably worry about this massive Labrador, but he's a total softie. It's Bella, who's a tiny beagle, that will go for the throat of any burglar.
Yes,
really,
and rip it to
she will
shreds.
defend the house. Yeah,
absolutely right. I've got a Labrador, a sort of yellow Labrador, and there he is, Ziggy. He's got a bad foot at the moment. He's got a bad paw, which has got some kind of infection. And he's not allowed to lick it, so he's sitting there, and he's so beautiful, and he's so soft, and he would literally lick the burglar to death. Look at him. There he is. Anyway, listen, fantastic. We love dogs, much better than humans. Stephen Barrett, thank you very much indeed. Our favourite barrister of all time. What a guy. Absolutely fantastic. We've got much more to do. How I haven't told you yet is that you can get your hands on one of these, which is, of course, a Mike Graham bumper sticker, so that you can prove that you have not only common sense, but you listen to the one show which actually practices common sense. And it is, of course, the Mike Graham Show every single morning from 7 o'clock until 9:30. Now, however, we'll be telling you how you can get your hands on those, because what we're going to do is give you an address to send a stamped address envelope to, and we'll send you out one for free, which is going to be great. And also, funnily enough, I was talking to my sister the other day because I was explaining how it's a bit difficult to send these overseas. But if you're in America or in Canada or any part of that sort of North American continent, she has volunteered to send you a bumper sticker, which I will send her. If you want us to do that. So we'll come up with all of these solutions to all of these problems over the course of time. Right now, though, it's time for Edward Hughes with the news.
Good morning, all. Here's the news with me, Edward Hughes. Good morning. Today marks a major change at UK borders. The Electronic Travel Authorisation, ETA scheme is now fully enforced. From February 25th, visa-free visitors from dozens of countries, including the US, Canada, Australia, and many others, must obtain this digital pre-travel permit online or risk being denied boarding. Dual nationals are also affected in some cases, needing to use their British passport to enter. On the international front, the UK announced one of its largest sanctions packages against Russia yet, nearly 300 new measures targeting oil revenues and military suppliers, exactly 4 years after the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Downing Street called out Putin's recent nuclear-related claims as absurd distractions. Elsewhere, police have wrapped up searches at Prince Andrew's former Royal Lodge home following his recent arrest, while Lord Mandelson was released on bail after his own misconduct probe. Energy bills are set to drop in April, and NHS cancer treatment rankings have been revealed, showing big variations across trusts. That's your quick UK roundup. Stay informed. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Edward Hughes there with the news. And as I've often said to people, I was explaining to somebody the other day, Leon Amirali, who used to be on my show quite a lot in the old days and is now going to come back and do these shows. And he's going to come on Plank of the Week. Fascinating guy, former number 10 special advisor. I was explaining to him about Edward Hughes and how, we've told him that he must under no circumstances at all ever text to anyone while he's reading the news, obviously like his almost namesake used to do before he was fired by the BBC for being a paedophile. We'll come back to all of that. We've got a poll on the go, by the way. The poll is this: who would you rather have lunch with? Because of the way that Zach Polanski has kind of risen in the public consciousness, I suppose, we've decided to put him in there. Zach Polanski, Nigel Farage, Donald Trump, or Sydney Sweeney, right? Now, there was a time when many of you, particularly men, would have said Sydney Sweeney, but most of you at the moment are going for Nigel Farage. 42% of you so far say Nigel Farage is who you'd rather have lunch with. Second, Donald Trump with 41%. Third, Sydney Sweeney with 16%. And Zach Polanski coming in last, 1%. I presume you probably wouldn't want to watch him eat with those teeth, would you? Can you imagine? Zach Polanski munching down on something with those horrible, ghastly teeth that, as somebody once described them, he has to brush with a hammer. I support Polanski on free dental care. Looks like he needs this more than most, says Mark Tronick. There's a story as well that I want to talk to you about over the course of time, because I know we do this quite a lot, particularly when it comes to the NHS. But the front page of the Daily Express today has got a story saying basically that half of people who are ill do not actually bother going to the doctor, right? Half of adults avoid going to the GP for help, it says, because they just don't think they'll be able to get an appointment. The top reasons people gave for putting off a visit include problems contacting surgeries. Others say they don't expect to be given a suitable appointment time, and some just waited for the problem to go away instead. 2/5 of people, 2,200 people asked by the Health Foundation think tank, Ipsos, said the general standard of NHS care has worsened in the last year. Only 1 in 8 people said it had improved. I don't know who they are. Presumably they work for the government. And one of them was Wes Streeting. 2/5 of people basically say the general standard of NHS care has worsened. But we all know that. So if you've got stories to tell us about the NHS, and I know that we've done this before, you can find me on Twitter at IROMG. You can post things on the Substack channel that we've got as well, which is the MikeGrahamShow.com. If you haven't subscribed to that, you should, because you can get all sorts of extra content, articles that I write, different videos that you won't see anywhere else, and exclusive content, which is all very, very helpful for you to get through the day as well. Let's have a quick look as well last night at what happened in America, because last night it was the State of the Union address, and Donald Trump got up in Congress and I think gave the longest ever State of the Union address. I think it was 108 minutes. Have a look at what he had to say about Nancy Pelosi.
I am announcing that next year my administration will give these often forgotten American workers, great people, the people that built our country, access to the same type of retirement plan offered to every federal worker. We will match your contribution with up to $1,000 each year, as we ensure that all Americans can profit from a rising stock market. Let's also ensure that members of Congress cannot corruptly profit from using insider information. They stood up for that. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Did Nancy Pelosi stand up if she was here? Doubt it. Pass the Stop Insider Trading Act without delay.
I mean, what about the hypocrisy of that, right? Nancy Pelosi, the woman who spent £26,000 on a fridge, £26,000 on a fridge, and who suddenly went from being a relatively, well-paid congresswoman to being a multi-billionaire. And you just go, really? How did that happen? Exactly. Let's talk about economics, though, because it's time to go to our economics expert. Vicky Price is here with us. Vicky, very good morning to you. Welcome to the new shiny Mike Graham show.
Good morning. Great to be on it.
Great to see you. We are, I suppose, living in dangerous times, we might say. We've got an economy which is teetering on the brink. A lot of people wonder whether it's going to survive the next few months. We've got unemployment about to hit 5.5%. We've got companies saying that they are operating a sort of hiring freeze. Nobody's got any confidence really in what's coming up. How do you see the next sort of 3 months for not only the economy, but also for Rachel Reeves?
Well, it's interesting that we're going to get some new forecasts of where the economy may be going by the Office for Budget Responsibility on just next week with the spring statement. So we'll get a better idea of what they think. But of course, lots and lots of economists have been revising their forecast. And it's really interesting that even the Bank of England has revised its forecast for this year down to around 1%. The OBR, the Office of Budget Responsibility, headed at around 1.3, 1.4% for this year. And it is true that we did finish 2025 slightly better than had been anticipated by most people, a growth of about 1.3%. Not bad, but towards the end of the year, things had become quite flat. So the worry is whether that's going to continue. And you're quite right, there are concerns about the cost of businesses. They are at present not hiring. Unemployment is going up. And that's a concern. But the government is still spending a huge amount of money. A lot of the growth that we're seeing comes from that. Just remember that just the first budget that Rachel Reeves presented, which was back in October 2024, had an increase in spending, annual spending, by comparison to what Jeremy Hunt had done, of about 70 billion. This is 70 billion per annum more. Yes, of course, she raised taxes quite significantly by over 40 billion in that budget, and she borrowed quite a bit for the rest, but the spending is still coming into the economy, mainly on public services, the NHS, and that, of course, keeps workers in the public sector going. They are the ones who are seeing faster increases in wages still than the private sector. So growth is still there, partly because of that. It's not because companies are investing or anything like that. It is really fueled by the public sector.
And that is a terrible kind of equation as well, isn't it? Because we've got more and more people asking for money, and less people, fewer and fewer people actually contributing it. We've got a shrinking kind of tax base because so many people are leaving the country. So many people have decided not to carry on with businesses, perhaps because they just don't think it's worthwhile. I hear that all the time. And yet more and more people are standing around with their hands out saying, give me some more benefits. And that is a recipe, it seems to me, for disaster. But we saw, I think, was it last week, Vicky, that the government was crowing about actually bringing in more revenue than ever because of the tax rises. And so they're still borrowing an awful lot of money, but they're actually still bringing in more money from the tax that they're putting on people's wages as well.
Well, what happened, of course, is that we got the figures for January. Remember, January is always a very good year for the government. So the forecast had been about 23 billion. They raised about 30 billion in that year, positive. So in other words, there was a surplus of that amount. And that is because in January, you pay your tax for the previous year, the previous fiscal year, because you do your reporting in terms of self-assessment. So a lot of money is paid that way. And of course, once you've frozen tax allowances, in other words, where you start paying tax has remained the same for a number of years and likely to continue to do so, as it was before, at a certain level, so it doesn't take account of inflation. It means that whatever you earn, which of course the wages going up, inflation, etc., and whatever it is that you charge if you're self-employed, you end up paying a lot more tax than would otherwise have been the case. So that's number one. The second one was that there had indeed been expectations, and indeed it happened again in that October budget in 2024, that the capital gains tax was going to go up. So loads of people sold assets. So there was a big increase in collections from capital gains. That isn't necessarily going to continue, of course. So there was a sort of one-off, good figure for the government. But you're right in what you're suggesting, which is we're paying for this. So basically, it's tax coming out to the system and then being recycled in the areas that the government likes to see. But yes, we are still borrowing as a country an awful lot of money, and that is what the government is worried about looking ahead, because a number of the things that they wanted to cut, such as some of the welfare spending, they haven't been able to get through Parliament.
No, and they keep telling us that, we're turning a corner, you're going to start feeling better off soon, you're going to have more money in your pocket. I mean, I don't see it. Nobody really sees it, but one of the things they keep banging on about is in April, we're going to be saving ourselves £150 on our electricity bills. But is that not just part of the function of spending less money on heating the house because it's getting a bit warmer?
Well, no, the reason why it's going to be cheaper is because we had the announcement that it's going to be 7% off from an average bill starting in April. It is really because the government has stepped in to take some of the costs out of the bills, so such as the green levies, for example. So that's going to be very helpful for everyone who relies, if you like, on electricity and gas to warm their homes. A little bit of a fall in wholesale prices over the period that was calculated. That's the way in which the cap works. I mean, nothing major from there, but it really is government action. So what they are trying to do is see whether they can have an impact on the cost of living. So a number of the measures that have been introduced, which will affect the figures in April, include things like freezing rail fares in England. I mean, that's quite important, prescription charges. So the intention is to artificially, if you like, bring those costs down for households, but it's all going to be paid by higher taxes.
Yeah, and that is the problem. And how much more can they squeeze us, though? Because, people are already telling me that, for example, if they have an opportunity to make more money, maybe do a bit of overtime, maybe do a bit of extra work at the weekends, they're kind of not bothering, because at the end of the day, the tax that they're going to end up paying is going to make it not really worthwhile. So they're kind of encouraging a stagnating economy, it seems to me.
Well, much depends really on whether businesses still want to employ these people. So whether people give up or not to a very considerable extent. What we've seen recently is that firms have been unwilling to hire because they're worried about the costs, and those costs, of course, include the national insurance contributions increase. And there is another element, really, for those at the lower end of the pay bracket, which is a real worry, and which is that the changes of the national insurance contributions have made it even more expensive for firms to hire people at low wages, if you like, those who do part-time work and so on. They get caught a lot faster by the tax that employers have to pay, because they've reduced the threshold from £9,100 to £5,000. It means that if you're working up to the hours that earn you that amount of money, the employer has to start paying 15% tax on your wages a lot earlier than would have been the case otherwise. So there is that element. Of course, the possibilities aren't there. And for loads of young people, if firms are closing down their intention of hiring at that lower end, then what you find is that they just, join the ranks of those who perhaps at the end of the day are not looking for jobs. And that's one of the worries.
Yeah, it really is. Vicky, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Vicky Price there giving us the lowdown on the latest statistics in the economy, which is basically flatlining. It's not really going anywhere. All you know is that you're getting to pay more and more tax. You're getting to have bills which are going up and up and up. We keep being told that inflation is coming down, but it's not really. Nobody really believes that. It's absolutely extraordinary. I think we're going to get some, so we can do some super chats, Pooch. Why don't we do some of those? Because we haven't seen too many of those this morning yet. It's coming up to 7:52. This from Kev, who says, because the vetting process completely missed what a Google search would have shown about Mandelson, means we can't trust the process for any of the members of his cabinet. I think that's absolutely right. How can you trust anything that Keir Starmer does or says? Cindy says this, Mike, I wish your show was 4 hours long. Well, it might be soon. We go from 7 to 9:30 at the moment. We might be going from 7 to 10 very soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Morning, Mike and Stephen. Great start to the show, says LTL 2405. One from Bam Bam. We need weekend breakfast shows. Well, that's all very well for you to say, but what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to do a show every single day? I mean, I could. But, I don't have the time off to look after Ziggy. He's got a sore paw. I've got a sore paw as well, actually, this morning. I've got some kind of a problem with one of my fingers. But anyway, never mind. Mike, can you do a 24/7 show? You can sleep when you pop your clogs. Yeah, thanks, Dan. That's fine. Yeah, well, I could do that. But, I do have other, responsibilities. Last night I had to cook for my son. I went and bought him. I was supposed to take him out for dinner, but it got cancelled. So I ended up having to cook him a steak. I made a peppercorn sauce for the first time. I have to say, it was bloody good. To be honest. Esther McVeigh's in the house, by the way. Esther, hi, how are you? You can shout over to us as you come. We'll be talking to her very soon. Where is your coffee? Yeah, come on, Pooch. I mean, it's a one-man band here with two bands. We do our best. Pooch's got to answer the door, got to produce the show, make the coffee, He brought some muffins in this morning, which was very nice. Front pages, and we'll talk to Esther about this as well. Front pages this morning, very much all still about Mandelson, who apparently claims that he shouldn't have been arrested because the police should have just trusted him. Oh, really? I mean, is he really saying that? And front page of the Daily Mail, the latest from the Zach Polanski Brigade, the Green Party plans to hand illegal migrants free houses, a wage and free NHS care. Well, they already get that, don't they, from Labour? So, I mean, as somebody pointed out earlier, that's not really a new thing for them. They'll be allowed to work with no restrictions under plans for a world without borders. It comes, this news, as a bombshell poll puts the Greens in second place nationally ahead of an increasingly fraught Gorton and Denton by-election, which, of course, is tomorrow. A lot of people saying if Reform don't win it tomorrow, that could be a bit of a setback for Nigel Farage and his kind of, plan to dominate the world. And if the Greens win it, goodness gracious me. I mean, this is an organisation that put out a campaign video in Urdu, right, for the local Muslim community from Pakistan to vote for them. Absolutely extraordinary stuff. Coming up, Chris Rose is going to be here as well. Plus, we'll take more and more of your messages. And a poll right now saying, who would you rather have lunch with? The question goes, is it, I think it's Nigel Farage, Donald Trump, Zach Polanski or Sydney Sweeney? And it's between Nigel Farage and Donald Trump at the moment, so none of you have really got much interest in Sydney Sweeney, which is quite surprising. Pooch would rather have lunch with Sydney Sweeney or possibly dinner. Anyway, Esther McVeigh coming up as well. Loads more. We've got Plank of the Day. We've got my meltdown to do as well. Mandelson was a flight risk. I wish he would just bugger off. That would be nice, wouldn't it? But there we are. Some of you might have noticed that behind me, over here, the Mike Graham Show sign is not illuminated. We've had some kind of a failure of the power scenario. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but we're going to try and light it up as we go through the show. Meanwhile, let's talk, I think, to Chris Rose after this.
The Conservatives are now the party of high tax. On their watch, the tax burden is the highest in 70 years. I worked as an economist at the Bank of England before entering politics. I know what it takes to run a successful economy.
Yes, how to run a successful economy. If only she knew. If only she could run anything successfully, but of course she can't. Is Chris here? He is. Chris, a very good morning to you, sir.
Morning.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you again.
Let's talk about what's going on up in the northwest, Gorton and Denton, the by-election happening tomorrow. Obviously, Reform would like to think they're going to win it with Matt Goodwin, but they seem to, from what I can see, they seem to be sort of slightly dampening down expectations because the Greens have had a bit of a surge. What are you hearing?
As I say, because I've heard that in Gorton and Denton it's split. So in Gorton, I think they're more for the Greens. They say it's more like Brighton, and in Denton it's more for Reform. Because I went up there not too long ago, and we went to Denton, and we certainly got a much better reception. In Denton, there's a lot of houses that had Reform placards in the front yards. But then they also said, in previous weeks in Gorton, it's been more for the Greens. They've not really seen many Labour people, and not really seen any Tory voters either. They say they're non-existent there. They say it's a tight race between Reform and the Greens. So I'm expecting it to be very tight. I'm expecting about possibly 3 or 4 recounts tomorrow night, and I'm expecting it to be possibly down to a few hundred votes, in my opinion. But unfortunately, we do have a Green surge. I don't know where this surge has come from. Is it all the Urdu posters and all the other things, the sectarian issues that they might be playing on to their advantage? But I'm really hoping that the Reform can just take it. I hope the Labour and the Greens split evenly, and I hope enough Tory voters come to their senses and actually back Reform instead of just voting for a candidate that's pretty much pointless, really. And also with Advance as well. I hope they join forces and actually vote Reform as well, because I'm hoping that Matt Goodwin will be the next MP there.
Well, I think that's what an awful lot of people would hope as well. But I'm hearing, sort of anecdotally, that Labour are doing better than the polls would suggest they're doing. And it might well be because of Andy Burnham's kind of support for the local candidate, even though nobody's really heard of her, that they might do better than we think.
Possibly. I mean, I've heard that too. And they say it's down to the early postal voting. I'm very sceptical about, postal voting, particularly with Labour, because sometimes it can be very dodgy, like we've seen in Tower Hamlets when it's particularly demographics are involved as well. So I'm, very much a bit sceptical about why they're so excited about it. But I'm still expecting Labour to be in third place. I'm not expecting them to be a distant third place, because it is their 6th safest seat. And I think this was on the list of 400 and odd for Reform to target since it's the last general election, because it's such a big swing for them to win. So I'm hoping that they can do it. I mean, even just a close second place would still be showing that they're a threat to democracy. Well, it's a threat to Labour. So I'm hoping that there's a good win, and we can actually thank the Reform Exposed and Hope Not 80 who have pretty much targeted Matt with quite ugly smears as well, and have not targeted the Green candidate, even though they're taking advantage of quite divisive sectarian issues. They're the real ones that they should be targeting, because Matt isn't the divisive one. It's Hannah, the so-called nice little plumber. She's the opposite of just.
Well, she's a fake plumber and a real landlord, which apparently the Green Party are against. They don't like landlords, but apparently she is one.
I know she's a landlord. She jets off on holidays as well. which is everything that the Green Party are campaigning against. But here they are, they like capitalists when they're one, they like to be against open borders when it affects them. But, frankly, they have one rule for them and another rule for everyone else. I mean, they're pretty much just like Labour, but more extreme and more pro-Islamist than Labour. They're, the worst of the worst. That's why I'm, even though it's nice to see Labour lose or, having a bad time electorally, what can replace them is also the Greens, which are, frankly, much worse and much hypocritical than they are. So it's like a, temporarily happily until you see a Green person being elected, which hopefully won't be the case tomorrow.
No, exactly. And I mean, if Reform don't win the seat, would you see that as a setback for them?
It depends. I mean, if they come a close second, I still think they will show that they're a serious force electorally, because this is what their 400 and odd target seats. It's a last year election, so it's not exactly their top one that they expected to win because of the swing that's needed to win these seats. But I'm hoping, that it will show that they still have serious force, even if they don't win it. I mean, it'd be shameful if they came third or below Labour. I think that's the main thing that most people want in Reform, is to at least beat Labour at minimum. Yeah. But I'm hoping that they will win. I think they can win it. I mean, they've put a lot of effort in. They've been out every day, 3 or 4 sessions a day. And they've had really good feedback on the doors as well. People saying, they definitely would vote Reform, or they'll think about it. Yeah. And so I'm hoping that they can just take it from Labour and the Greens.
One just last thing to mention to you, story in the Sun today, and I didn't know this was the case, but despite the fact that we've paid 700 million quid to the French to stop the boats, which of course hasn't happened, apparently that deal is about to run out. And in the next month, Starmer's going to have to negotiate a new deal where we give them even more money to not do anything. I mean, it's ludicrous, isn't it?
Oh, that is. I mean, every time Labour negotiates, we always lose out. And I wonder what the next deal is going to be. I mean, will it be 10 million pounds that we have to pay them in order for them to just send even more? Yeah. I don't see what the point is. If anything, we should be asking them to give us a refund, because they've not done their part of the bargain. The only time they seem to stop boats is when the BBC cameras are there, and then they suddenly find the knives to slash the boats. Oh, yes. Suddenly doing their job as soon as there's a camera. But it would be good if they could do it when the cameras aren't there, because that's what we're paying them. It's not just a show. I'm not interested in just seeing it on videos. I actually want it done when nothing's been recorded, because this is a danger to our lives as well. We don't know who these people are that are unknown men. I would like the 7 million to actually have done something that could have saved people's lives. There's people, names I can, remember, who would still be alive if they had done their part of the bargain. So it is very serious that they haven't done it, and we should be asking for more, possibly even more than a refund, due to the lives that have been cost.
Absolutely right. Chris, great to see you. Great to speak to you. Thank you very much indeed. See you soon in the studio. Chris Rose there, a campaigner for Reform now, former Conservative, of course. Many people, former Conservative campaigners for Reform. The big by-election tomorrow will bring you all of the results from that, of course, on Friday morning. But it is looking very, very close between the Greens and Reform. The Tories not really getting much of a look in, because it's supposed to be one of Labour's safest seats. I think it's the 4th or 5th safest Labour seat in the country. And Labour are predicted to not even come second, possibly coming third. I mean, who can blame people for completely deserting the Labour vote? But is it going to stand up a little bit better than we think? We don't know. Coming up, Esther McVeigh is going to be here, Tory MP, of course. She's going to be bringing us up to date on what's been going on those opposition benches. She's also been talking about halal slaughter and kosher slaughter of animals as well. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Peter Mandelson as well. He's busy spinning. I mean, you'd think this guy would stop spinning, wouldn't you, at this point? He's been arrested. He's been questioned by the police under suspicion of misconduct in public office. He's basically, trying to convince us that he was arrested by mistake, because apparently the police and he had a deal that he would go and talk to them next month, and instead, because somebody said he might fly to the British Virgin Islands and disappear, they decided to arrest him for good measure, just to make sure that he didn't bugger off without talking to them and take his passport with him. He's saying that he wouldn't leave his husband, he wouldn't leave his dog, and he wouldn't leave his multi-million-pound house, which may have been bought for him by Jeffrey Epstein. Who can say? But it's massively bad for Keir Starmer, is all we know. This is, of course, the home of common sense. It's the Mike Graham Show. Let's get some news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning, all. Here's the news with me, Edward Hughes. Good morning. Today marks a major change at UK borders. The Electronic Travel Authorization, ETA scheme, is now fully enforced. From February 25th, visa-free visitors from dozens of countries, including the US, Canada, Australia, and many others, must obtain this digital pre-travel permit online or risk being denied boarding. Dual nationals are also affected in some cases, needing to use their British passport to enter. On the international front, the UK announced one of its largest sanctions packages against Russia yet, nearly 300 new measures targeting oil revenues and military suppliers, exactly 4 years after the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Downing Street called out Putin's recent nuclear-related claims as absurd distractions. Elsewhere, police have wrapped up searches at Prince Andrew's former Royal Lodge home following his recent arrest, while Lord Mandelson was released on bail after his own misconduct probe. Energy bills are set to drop in April, and NHS cancer treatment rankings have been revealed, showing big variations across trusts. That's your quick UK roundup. Stay informed. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Edward Hughes with the news there. Of course, Esther McVeigh joins us for the first time in the history of the Mike Graham Show here. Esther, great to see you. Thank you so much for coming in. Coffee,
sorted.
Yeah, we've got muffins if you get hungry.
I would like one.
Would you? Okay, absolutely. Well, Pooch will help you out. We've also got Edward Hughes with the news. You might have spotted that, it's a play on words, that, because he's not Hugh Edwards.
No.
He's Edward Hughes.
Like it.
And so we have to keep reminding him that he's not allowed to send any nasty messages to anybody while he's reading the news. Because you know what?
That'd be good, because we know what happens then.
No, we know it always leads to a bad place. Great to see you.
Thank you.
We've not seen each other really properly since last year. We've taken over this new space. There you go. There's a muffin for you.
I tell you, as if by magic.
And we love it. We absolutely love it. And it's so great to be able to talk about almost anything that you don't have to worry about Ofcom so far, although I see they're putting their paws into Netflix and various other kind of streaming services now.
They're on to you.
They are. I mean, they're coming for me, But please do like and subscribe if you are. We've got 138,000 subscribers right now. I think we've just about burst through 8 million views since we've been going.
Brilliant.
Which has been fantastic,
Unbelievable.
And we really are kicking the arse out of everybody else. And we can talk like that as well on every breakfast show on YouTube. So, but let's talk first of all about the by-election tomorrow, because I don't wish to be unkind, but the Tories, they wouldn't really be anywhere, because it's a very safe Labour seat.
No, they're not anywhere. And no, they never have been anywhere. So that is just the truth of the matter.
Yeah.
The three it's between, and it's very tight, as you said, is Labour, Reform and the Greens.
Yeah.
And as you rightly say, this will be a massive humiliation for Labour. This is one of their safest seats in the country.
It's their fourth or fifth safest seat in the country, isn't it?
So I think that really is the story. I know people try to be pushing it to what happened to Reform if they don't win, or the Greens and the Green surge, but the story is the Labour collapse there.
Yeah, absolutely right. And it shows you just how unpopular Keir Starmer is. He went up there the other day, right? And he wouldn't even go out and meet the people. He walked into a room where there were already Labour paid employees to cheer and shake hands with him. And he wouldn't go out and meet ordinary people, because he knows if he does, he's going to get abused, he's going to get booed, he's going to get shouted at.
I am now shocked. It doesn't matter whether it's a football match, a darts match, anything. They are all shouting and cheering. I won't say it, obviously, parliamentary language that I should be using.
I have said it before, but we know what you mean.
So he knows that. He knows he's banned from pubs.
Yeah.
Labour MPs are also banned from hairdressing salons as well, because of what they've done to the high street. So he is right to be worried and concerned. The only thing I thought, if he's now gone to the area, he must think they're maybe in with a shout.
Yes.
Because otherwise he'd stay completely away.
Yeah.
I take it he wasn't on the literature. I take it they've absolutely not mentioned him whatsoever.
No.
You're quite right. Andy Burnham, anybody else from that area they might have had. But I thought the fact that he'd actually gone up there says to me he might think it's a closer fight than he thought only last week.
Well, I was sent something yesterday from somebody who was around and about doing some sort of door knocking up there, and Andy Burnham they're putting Andy Burnham sort of messages through the letterbox in which he says things like, just dropping you a note because this by-election is really, really important and it's very, very close. And so they're kind of trying to convince people that, if you go out and vote Labour, you might actually win. And they seem to be obsessed with reform, don't they? They're just absolutely trying to keep them out.
They say as reform lives rent-free in Starmer's head.
Yes.
And the Labour Party said it doesn't matter what they're talking about, they have to start off with the sentence of what they're doing, what they're not doing, whether they're in Parliament or whether they're not in Parliament. So absolutely the run is scared, and so they should be. The white working class vote has absolutely moved and collapsed to reform, particularly in those areas of Manchester, I would say St Helens, North Liverpool, Bolton, Bury, because they know the Labour Party went sort of metropolitan elite, completely disinterested in the things that matter to them, which is immigration, which is crime, all the things that make their life more difficult, cost of living, squeeze in the high street, losing the job, energy prices, whatever it is, Labour does not understand them, and they're absolutely squeezing the life out of these working class people in this country.
And also, the state of the Labour government now is so ridiculous. I mean, since you and I last spoke, I can't even count the number of scandals there have been. And I mean, I've been asking the question probably now for about 6 months, is how is Starmer still even there? How has he not walked away? I mean, look at the Mandelson case. I mean, look at the Josh Simons case, where it looks as though Labour Together were actually using money to discredit Sunday Times journalists because they didn't like what they were writing about them. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on.
Mike, can I tell you that case there about Labour Together? I think this is going to be massive. I was in the floor of the House. So this week alone, we've talked about sort of Mandelson, also Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. But the Josh Simons case, as you'll know, he's
Huge
now a
scandal.
minister in Cabinet Office. But every Labour MP who spoke absolutely lambasted the government. There was not anybody defending it, talking about it, and wanting an investigation into Labour Together, full stop. They're also saying what the government is doing is a sham. They're only looking at the time now that Josh Simons was in office. Well, this is before he was in office. This was when he was running Labour Together. And what did he do? Unheard of. Chilling. He didn't like a story about Labour Together's finances that investigative journalists had discovered, so he went on the attack to smear them. And that is chilling. So if you think now what this Labour government's doing, first of all, Starmer tried to get rid of, do you remember all the court cases, court deaths? So any data that could maybe reflect badly on him, his time as DPP, could hide any information about the rape gang inquiry. He wanted to remove that. The next thing they're doing is getting rid of investigative journalists, sort of be quite chilling, so they think, oh, don't go after us.
And they're also
so they're trying to get rid of news.
And denying the truth. I mean, Darren Jones, who is effectively, Starmer's right-hand man now, was caught out, wasn't he, in Parliament just the other day, when he said, I never took any money from Labour Together. And then I think it was David Davis, the Tory, from the backbenches, who said, well, have a look at his register of interest, where it says that he received £27,000 here, £29,000 there. He's already said in the House that he didn't receive any money from them. It's a blatant lie.
And the Labour MPs went on the attack, and it was a Labour MP who did a point of order, because obviously we'd view this as payment in kind. Even if you've taken people, it's still a payment. Yes. Well, actually, just before I did my 10-minute rule bill yesterday, a Labour minister had to come to the floor of House and make a point of order, correct the record, because Starmer has said he'd had no connections, no dealing, done any law cases with that solicitor, Phil Shiner. Disgraced solicitor.
Who's the guy who misrepresented all of the veterans and all of that,
Exactly, and they had to come to the floor of the House and apologise for misrepresenting as well that fact. So trust me, as you said, there's one scandal after another. It is difficult to keep up with them, and I wonder if that is how, in a way, Starmer's surviving, because there's one after another, so you never actually get to the bottom of an issue, because the next one's hot on the heels. But actually, this Mandelson one, front page here, this really showed right at the start here his poor judgment, the fact that he thinks he's above the law, didn't need to do the scrutiny properly, didn't want to do the scrutiny properly.
And they fast-tracked the vetting, didn't they? And we know that from a story that was in the I newspaper the other day. But, I find it incredible that there's nobody inside the Labour government with any kind of cojones or pride even to say, we can't carry on like this. This is a sham government. It's a ridiculous situation. He's unpopular in his own party. He's unpopular in the country. He hasn't got anything going for him, and yet he's still sitting there, and he's not going anywhere unless somebody pushes him out, is he?
So there are some Labour MPs who do want to do something. It is just in a way that the barrier that they've got to reach is so high.
Yeah.
It is 80 of them coming out publicly and getting behind a single person. It is a difficult sort of, as I said, barrier to get to. However, there are so many now unhappy that you are seeing it with urgent questions on the House, statements on the House. Interestingly, how they found out that Mandelson was planning to flee the country, whether that's right or not. I know the person who was named, I think on the front page of the Telegraph, said it wasn't him.
Lord Forsyth,
Yeah, but it was somebody, and I'm saying that's how much they are just like they're now leaking and breathing stuff to the paper. They didn't want him to slip the net, disappear. I know Mandelson saying, "Oh, I wasn't going to do that," but when you've had a serial liar, the odds are you probably take what he says with a pinch of salt.
Stephen Barrett,
even if
Stephen Barrett, the barrister, was on with us this morning, first thing, and he was saying, the idea that Peter Mandelson's complaining that the police don't trust him is kind of hilarious, isn't it? It's like, what do you mean you don't trust him? Because you can't trust a man like Mandelson because he's an out-and-out liar. But the thing that I find astonishing is that he has been, sort of honeycombed through the Labour governments of the best part of the last 20-odd years. I mean, he started, I remember meeting Mandelson back in the sort of mid-90s, before, when he still had a moustache. He was writing a column for the Sunday People, and he was kind of in the midst of creating the new Labour project. He then got into government. He then got fired from government. One of the stories about him is that he started talking to Jeffrey Epstein in 2002, when he'd already been kicked out of the cabinet, but he was still in Downing Street because they just let him back in through the back door, And he's been, I think, very instrumental in the whole Starmer project and the whole Starmer government. Clearly, he's basically been calling the shots, and he's done what he's wanted.
Well,
hasn't he?
I'm getting told there's more and more that's going to come out about Labour Together. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Where the finances were, obviously, we know through the Electoral Commission, it was over £700,000 that they didn't register for a very, very long time. They didn't want people to know that the money had fundamentally come from two very wealthy people. But I wonder if that could be going back to Mandelson as well, because, like you said, he was instrumental. It was the organisation that made sure Starmer was leader. So we don't know where this is all going, but it does seem to come back to Mandelson. Like, why did he ever get the job in the first place? Was that a payback in a way, this job of ambassador, because of what he'd done in the past for them? So he has, without doubt, got abilities, has Mandelson, but I'm afraid his downside and what he did, whether it was give information away, top secret information about the government, handing it over to Epstein. One of it was to tell him about a 500 billion euro bailout during the crash. He gave that to a financier who's going to do something with that, make a lot of money on the back of it. And so they know this. No, the man needs to be well away from
And Morgan
government.
McSweeney surely also needs to be kind of quizzed by the police, surely, because it was him, and it was down to him that Labour Together was a thing, and also down to him that Mandelson was brought back in, because he was apparently the only person who told Keir Starmer, you must give this guy the job.
Yes, and it was during his tenure at the top that they didn't sort of register the money, because it was meant to be representing sort of grassroots, but it turns out it was fundamentally two very wealthy blokes who were funding it, which was not meant to be what it was about. It was meant to be grassroots, the voice of the people, getting everybody in, and obviously who it was elevating there. But funny enough, the other day, floor of the House, Jeremy Corbyn stood up, obviously, and he said, well, I want an investigation into what you were doing, basically to smear me, get rid of me when I was leader, and calling that Labour Together is a party within a party for the Labour Party.
Interesting, very interesting.
So I'd watch that one.
I think you're absolutely right. Now we're going to move on to what you did in the House the other day, because you had some very interesting things to say about animal rights and about the killing of those who use halal processes and kosher processes. But first, we've got a poll going out at the moment. Who would you rather have lunch with? Zach Polanski, Nigel Farage, Donald Trump, or Sydney Sweeney?
Well, I think I'm with Paul here. I think Sydney Sweeney would be good, but I think Trump, you've got to go have lunch
Yeah,
with Trump, haven't you?
He's
I think
emerging as the winner.
because obviously I see Farage, I see the other ones in the House of God. So
I suspect Donald Trump would quite like to have lunch with you as well.
Oh, do you think?
I mean, you've got that look that he likes. I think so. Yeah.
So yes, I think you've got to have. I mean, what's the guy up to? Where's he going to go next?
Yeah.
Whatever. Be an intriguing lunch.
It would.
I bet it'd be a good lunch.
Although
as well.
apparently he doesn't eat much. Apart
just
from
a
McDonald's,
burger or
he just
something,
eats
isn't
burgers,
it?
right? That's all
Burgers
he
and
eats.
Coke.
He's not interested in going to any sort of fancy restaurants. He just
it'd
takes a McDonald's
but
for
I think it'd be a
drive-through.
top of the range sort of fillet steak burger. It
It'd be
wouldn't
nice.
be any rubbish burger. I'll
No.
have it with him.
Absolutely right. Right, now let's have a look at Esther McVey in Parliament yesterday talking about halal and kosher methods of killing animals.
A bill to introduce compulsory labelling of halal and kosher meat and products containing halal and kosher meat and for connected purposes. Mr. Speaker, this is a bill about animal welfare, transparency in meat production and consumer choice. It does not seek to ban halal or kosher meat, it seeks to ensure they are clearly labelled. It is important consumers have such information so they can make an informed choice about what they are buying. And currently, consumers do not have that information, and many are purchasing and consuming halal and kosher meat without their knowledge and without their agreement. The unique process of halal and kosher meat requires the animal to have its throat slit. In the case of halal meat, the animal is often stunned before it's killed, although it might not be, and for the shahita killing, for kosher meat, there is no pre-stunning. This lack of stunning causes the animal to experience severe pain. An individual concerned about animal welfare would want to know if an animal has been stunned prior to slaughter.
Esther McVey there in Parliament talking about something that people feel really strongly about, Esther, actually, halal slaughter and kosher slaughter. And it's important to mention them both in the same sentence, isn't it? Because they're both not dissimilar in terms of the method that they use. Why are you so worked up about it?
So it's about compulsory labelling, so you know what you are eating. Because in this country, the animal is meant to be stunned before it is slaughtered. That was always the rules. However, there was an exemption for sort of religious meat, as it were, kosher and halal meat. So this was not meant to be an exemption to the rule. So, and if you know how that's done, it is done by they slit the neck of the animal. And
without stunning them first?
Yes. Some halal will say, often it's stunned for halal, but it doesn't have to be, and kosher is not. And there is severe pain that is felt by the animal when it is not stunned. And the problem is, what should have been, as I said, an exemption is now growing within the food chain. So you will see lots of supermarkets have it as a default product. You will see that if you go into takeaways, it is the default product. It's now in being served in the NHS, it's being served in schools, it's being served at university, and people are saying, but I wouldn't have bought it if I had known. I don't want to buy that meat. So I'm calling for labelling, compulsory labelling. I've had some numpty, I can only call them numpty Labour MPs and peers saying, this already happens. No, it does not. Compulsory labelling does not. And I'll tell you who I'm working with, other people who are interested in animal welfare. We're meant to be a nation of animal lovers, right? And yet we're causing extreme pain in this instance. Selena Scott is a massive advocate of this, and I'm working with her as well. And it just is to understand what's going on. And I looked at the figures, right? Of the billion, just over, animals processed in England and Wales, now 214 million is for halal meat.
Which is a much bigger number than it used to be, right?
It's like 4 times the population of sort of Muslims and Jews in this country. And we've now become an exporter of halal meat to the UEA. So there's something going wrong. And equally, you've got a 2-tier meat producing process now. So some slaughterhouses aren't stunning. And as you can imagine, that's cheaper because you're passing a whole process, which is stunning, and the looking after the animal. So it is cheaper meat that's coming into the food chain. But like I said, most people just want to know what's happening. And then at the same time, you've got a Labour government who put forward a 12,500 work document about their welfare strategy for animals, talking about, you can't boil live lobsters, and talking about the better care of fish. But they're not talking about it for animals. And why not? Most people say they don't want to talk about it because they are frightened of the Muslim vote. They are frightened of losing this vote. And I say, no, you should be doing what is right. And people should be adhering to the laws of the land, not using an exemption to bypass it.
And like you say, it's all about information. It's all about, transparency, so that people know if they want to buy it, fine. But equally, I'd be interested to know what the sort of supply chain looks like from the farmers' side. Did the farmers know, for example, when they're selling their livestock to a slaughterhouse, do they know whether it's going to be killed humanely? Do they know whether it's going to be killed under, religious rules, or do they not care?
And interestingly, it's about 92% of people who have halal meat would like it labelled properly because they want to know it's been done properly. Other religions want to know it hasn't gone through another religious practice if it's theirs. And then the public, when the government did do a sort of a call out, as it were, for information, almost 99% of people said they wanted to know how the animal was slaughtered. So it is something that the nation cares about. But as I said, most people are now eating it unwittingly. It is coming through in a lot of areas as the sort of default form of food, which isn't the law.
No, there's a lot of this stuff happening. I mean, I noticed something, and funnily enough, Pooch and I were talking earlier about how we don't really order takeaway food as much as we used to, partly because it's become so ridiculously expensive. But there was a time when I used to order quite a lot of Chinese food, and I started to notice that some Chinese food suppliers now no longer serve up pork. And like, if you want to get some spare ribs or something, they're lamb spare ribs. They're not pork anymore, because obviously, again, it's some kind of sop to religion, whether it be to the kosher side of it or to the Muslim side with halal. And so we're not given the choice. We are being told, well, you can't have pork. You can't have pork fried rice. We'll give you lamb fried rice. Well, I don't want lamb fried rice.
At the end of the day, like I said, it's about animal welfare. It's about transparency in the food sort of manufacturing sort of process, and it's also about consumer choice. And people are sort of angry and anxious about it, and they do think that this should be the law of the land. And I think it's this notion now that exemptions are becoming the rule. There is a vocal minority who are constantly getting their say, and MPs are weak and feeble. They are have overlooked things for a long period of time. They've wanted to be, whether it was politically correct or whether they just haven't wanted to challenge things. And I will put it down to a very weak political class.
Yeah, definitely. Let me ask you finally about the whole situation regarding the right side of politics now, because, people are beginning to say, Kemi Badenoch's having a bit of a resurgence. The Tories are not doing as badly as they once were, notwithstanding what's going on in the by-election. I think nobody expects them to do well, particularly in the May local elections. But we've now got Reform, who some people are saying have kind of plateaued to an extent. We've got Restore Britain now with Rupert Lowe. You've got Advance UK. I mean, a lot of people say to me, the only way for the right to kind of succeed and win at the next general election in this country is for some kind of deal to be done. I mean, would you be somebody that would support that, or where do you stand in all of that?
Yeah. So I think you are right that there is a lot of flux at the moment within the vote on the right. For me, what is essential is we get rid of this awful socialist government, to me, that is destroying the country in every which way, whether it's sort of moral standards, whether it's about the truth, or whether it's destroying the economy in every which way, and it's not dealing with the issues of the day. So this notion of gaslighting, a two-tier Kia, the whole issues about immigration, we're dealing with it. No, you're not. So for me, I want the right, therefore, to win. For me, I'm a Conservative. I want the Conservative Party to win. But this is what I am concerned about, Mike. Should there be, which looks at the moment the case, a coalition of the left, that Labour is joining with Lib Dem, will join with Green to make sure they win. And you saw that in the Caerphilly by-election. Plaid beat Reform because the left united. So what I don't want to see is a fragmentation of the right, which means Labour wins by default.
Right.
So it's a long way to go to the election. But are you saying, should we get there and it's still as fragmented as it is? I would like to see some sort of, we'll call it an electoral deal. There won't be a merger of the parties. We're different parties. But you would say, as Labour with Lib Dem often say, and I think the public sometimes does their own sort of electoral sort of pact or decide who they do or don't want in. But basically, you need to make sure that we don't knock each other out. And let Labour come through, because Labour is what's destroying the country. Labour's what's destroying our way of life.
Yeah. But is there a way of doing that, though? Because, I mean, it seems like Nigel Farage was sort of once bitten, twice shy the last time around.
And I
Boris
agree with that.
Johnson.
And by the way, I did say to Boris Johnson, you need to thank Nigel Farage for what he's done, and you should have given him, or please will you give him a peerage. You should have thanked him for standing down in that 2019 general election. Not just me, I can't take credit for that. Other people came forward, my husband came forward, other people saying you should do this, but I'm afraid Boris only looked out for Boris and he didn't do the right thing. So I get why Nigel is upset. Things are moving at the moment, without doubt. Kemi Badenoch is doing much better, has done for about the last 6 months. Really put Labour and Starmer in the place, really pointed out the sort of the Mandelson scenario, other scenarios, and it does seem that Reform is sort of plateauing. I think there was a bit of upset, some of the people who came into the Reform Party, particularly Nadine Zahawi. I'd also say Nadine Dorries, the Jake Berry, and it can't be a sort of a second sort of Conservative Party. It can't.
No.
Its voters are not, so a lot of them aren't sort of Conservative or don't want
well, they don't like
so
what the Conservatives have done.
There you go.
Right. So that's the thing. Lord Viking, by the way, has just sent us, he's a regular on the show. He says, I'd like to have lunch with Esther.
Oh.
So there you go. We'll have to add you to the list.
Yes, forget Trump.
Yeah, forget Trump. It's Esther McVeigh all the way.
I meant it was Lord Viking King.
Anyway, listen, great to see you.
And
hope
you.
can become a regular thing. It'd be really good to keep up with you, what you're doing. What's happening this week in the rest of we've got Prime Minister's questions coming up later.
We have indeed, and I actually...
Will old Mr. Opportunities, will he be there?
I think that'll be a big one. I think Kemi's been doing well, and there's so much happened this week, I think, with the arrest of Mandelson and never come into the end of that. By the way, Keir Starmer was also meant to have been bringing a bill into the House to remove Mandelson of his peerage. That seems to have disappeared. He says stuff and it never ever happens.
Because
so I think she'll nail him on that.
Yeah.
And I think also the Labour together and Josh Simons needs to either be sacked, that's a cabinet minister, or resign.
Yeah, exactly right. And also they're now hiding behind this ludicrous BS about how, we can't show you any of these files, these secret files, because it might prejudice the case. Absolute bollocks, right? I'm sorry to say that. I apologise for saying that, but we can say it now because we're not ruled by Ofcom. But the bottom line is that we need to see what Starmer knew when he knew it and exactly what he said.
We now know Starmer would say anything to remain in office. True or not, he says it, and as we say, we keep getting sort of apologies. He didn't quite know. If only he'd heard all about it. We never asked those questions. Right. But people are coming to the floor of the House now, as I said, making points of order to apologise for his misrepresentations to the House. So I'm afraid this man would say anything. So you are right to question what he's saying, and we want to see those files.
Definitely.
It's not for him to decide. See, that's superior to us. We wouldn't understand it. We couldn't be trusted with the evidence.
Right.
No, it's you, Starmer, who can't be trusted.
And he hates it. So I'll look forward to watching that today at 12 o'clock. And there will come a time on this channel where we will be actually covering it. Because we're expanding with every kind of month that goes. So
we put the world to rights there.
We absolutely did. We got through an awful lot of stuff. Esther McVeigh, brilliant to see you. Fantastic to have you in the studio. Thank you very much indeed. Esther, of course, one of the stars of the Conservative Party. Not recognised as well as she should be, as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, listen, we've got lots more to do. We've got coming up many things more to talk about. Prime Minister's questions coming up as well, of course. We'll talk some more about Mandelson, and we'll talk some more, because we haven't really done much of it yet, on old Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Imagine being him right now, staggering about, padding around in that empty house up in Norfolk where they've taken everything away. Hasn't he? Can't even play his PlayStation anymore because they've had that just in case there's any secret messages on it. You know, there we are. Looking for the truth. Super chat says, for Ziggy's treats. Yeah, Ziggy's not well. My dog's got a bad paw. There he is. I've got a bad paw as well. I woke up this morning and there's some kind of, growth on my finger, which I'm going to try and get rid of. Anyway, listen, let's get some news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning, all. Here's the news with me, Edward Hughes. Good morning. Today marks a major change at UK borders. The Electronic Travel Authorization, ETA scheme, is now fully enforced. From February 25th, visa-free visitors from dozens of countries, including the US, Canada, Australia, and many others, must obtain this digital pre-travel permit online or risk being denied boarding. Dual nationals are also affected in some cases, needing to use their British passport to enter. On the international front, the UK announced one of its largest sanctions packages against Russia yet, nearly 300 new measures targeting oil revenues and military suppliers, exactly 4 years after the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Downing Street called out Putin's recent nuclear-related claims as absurd distractions. Elsewhere, police have wrapped up searches at Prince Andrew's former Royal Lodge home following his recent arrest. While Lord Mandelson was released on bail after his own misconduct probe, energy bills are set to drop in April, and NHS cancer treatment rankings have been revealed, showing big variations across trusts. That's your quick UK roundup. Stay informed. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Edward Hughes there with the news. Mike, are you going to cover the story where a minister yesterday had to come to the House to correct the record regarding Starmer's relationship with Phil Shiner? Yeah, well, funnily enough, Esther just mentioned that. So, yeah, we will get into that a little bit more. This one from Neil says, Kemi isn't doing much better. Any 5-year-old can kick a ball into an empty goal. Well, I wouldn't say that. I think she is doing a lot better. Get a take on Victoria Starmer and her view, says Mr. Higgs. Mike says, risen shine. It's a sympathy pain for Ziggy. It is Lent. Ask God to take the pain from Ziggy and you can endure it for him. That's what we Catholics pray. Like, yeah, that's why I kind of gave up being a Catholic, because I got a bit fed up taking everybody else's pain. Frankly. Get well soon, Ziggy, says Joy. Thank you very much indeed. Here's what we say. Would we have had the Boris wave if Nigel had not stood down for Boris? Conservatives had more than a lot to answer for. Well, one of the things that's interesting, right, is that in the Sun this morning, in addition to the Greens saying that they want to give a free house, free NHS care and free everything to the migrants coming over, apparently the boats deal that we've got with France to supposedly stop the boats has already run out, and we're going to have to now find a new deal which is going to pay for more freebies, for more migrants to come over, and it's absolutely and utterly ridiculous. But listen, we can get into that, and plus an awful lot else as well with our next guest. Do we have any more super chats to do, Pooch, or should we just move on? Let's do a couple of messages, shall we, if we have them. This one from Leon. Religious exemption is the most insane concept ever. No laws should contain any religious nonsense. Making laws based on storybooks is insanity. And that's, of course, what Esther McVeigh was talking about in terms of the halal meat and the kosher meat versions of killing. Labour, the party of prats, privileged and perverts, says John. Can't argue with that, really, can you? And the rent boy scandal might finish Labour off, says John. It may well do. We don't know yet where that's all going and what will happen next, but we are awaiting a trial, is all I can say. And in the words of Keir Starmer, we're awaiting an opportunity to see whether or not trial is the right way to go. And obviously, until the trial comes, we cannot prejudice it. He's such a prat, he really is. Let's talk to Marilyn Hawes, a very fine woman who follows on from Esther McVeigh, who was brilliant. Marilyn, a very good morning to you.
Morning, I just can't get the camera right, sorry.
Very good to see you. You seem to be, your camera's moving around a bit. Oh, there you go, that's better. Great to see you. I mean, what about that? You know, the Labour Party, a party of prats, the privileged and perverts. You can't say fairer than that, really, can you?
I totally agree. I mean, I totally agree. They. I mean, you think about what Keir Starmer did. He was the worst director of prosecutions. He really was. He dodges and dives, and you know, I think like with West Streeting, he's trying to get rid of West Streeting. Well, anyone that he thinks is going to challenge him, how do you get rid of the plonker? I mean, truly, he's a Marxist. He's a communist. He's doing everything he can possibly do to actually break this country. And I mean, I went into London the other day. I mean, Sadiq Khan's no better, is he? I mean, he's just what he's done to London, it's like a cesspit. It's like the back roads of Delhi down there. It's awful. I don't know where you're based, but I don't go into London now anymore. I feel sorry for the shop owners and the people that are there. I stay away from it.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. It is an appalling state of affairs. I mean, Kelvin Mackenzie was in here yesterday describing parts of London that he hadn't been to for a long time, and he couldn't quite believe what it's turned into. And I think that's what most of us say. You know, I did a podcast the other week with the trigonometry guys, and I said, you know, you walk down Oxford Street now, and it looks more like Dubai than Dubai does. In fact, there's more English people in Dubai than there are in Oxford Street.
But the people in Dubai are at least pleasant. They're not running around on, you know, on those women bikes. I did actually go in there about a month ago, actually, because I had to meet a relative in a hotel down there.
Oh, yeah.
And there was all these, well, obviously migrants, illegal migrants, with their scarves right up here.
Oh, yeah.
And they were riding these bikes, you know, Just Eats and all of that thing, on the wrong side of the road, completely oblivious to the red lights.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'll take a few out here.
I mean, you know what I do now, because I find them so annoying. These bloody people on delivery bikes, which are either, you know, electric bikes or mopeds, because the moped sort of revolution is also something that's gone on. And they weave in and out. And if you're sitting at the traffic lights in a car, and I've got a very nice car, and they come around it, they go in between. So I now go so close to the car in front that they can't do it. And I'm like, you know what? F you guys, you know, you're getting around my bloody car, you know, you go around the other way. Just because you get to the point where you're just like, I've had enough, I'm not doing it anymore.
I know, I am not racist. I really am not. I've got a Nigerian step-daughter-in-law, you know, and she's gorgeous. And
Yeah.
I'm not, it's just what they're doing. It's the dross that's coming in here. And what gets me is the whole of the Labour Party are just completely controlled by Starmer. I mean, they're terrified of their own income. They're terrified of losing the whip. They won't stand up to him. And it's all going to come crashing down on them, hopefully before 3 years' time. I honestly, I worry about my grandchildren. I think, what is their world going to be like? And I can remember when I was a teenager, I went on to my dad about Enoch Powell, right? And my dad said I was a racist. And my dad was very much a socialist. But this isn't even socialism. This is Marxism with the Starmer. It's not socialism. But I said, this is going to be my world, Dad, not yours. And I have several times on air, and I would urge anyone to do it, read out the whole of Enoch Powell's speech. He was not racist. He was a visionary. And the little bit that came out, like, oh, rivers of blood, that was taken out of context.
Yeah.
And when you read it, he was so concerned about 3 of his constituents in Birmingham who were making the case that there were too many coming in and this was upsetting Birmingham. And look at Birmingham now. Oh, my goodness me. And he just raised that in Parliament.
Yeah.
And
you've now got a situation in many parts of this country, Marilyn, as you quite rightly say, Birmingham being one of them, and the East End of London being another, where you've got Muslim communities saying to people, you can't come here and start preaching Christian values because, you know, it's a Muslim area. Well, sorry, bugger off.
Mike, where is the useless Archbishop of Canterbury? I mean, she's as woke as anybody else. I mean, why isn't she standing up and saying this is a Christian country, blah, blah, blah? I mean, she's nowhere to be seen.
Right.
And the previous one was no better. Welby was useless. I met him. I mean, he was, God's truth. I mean, they're all the same. But, you know, even speak now, honestly, Mike, I mean, this thing with the gangs, and I mean, I'm in contact with Charlie Peters as well, but this thing with the gangs, last time I was on GB News, and I was so enraged that they were going on about the rape gang inquiry. What a joke. And, you know, of course, Rupert Lowe's done a good job with what he's done. But I was contacted by 2 taxi drivers up in North Shields. And they were telling me how they're so concerned about the young girls coming out at the age 16 and 19. And they're coming out of care and they're placed in these flats, right, around North Shields and Wallsend.
Right.
And they're Kurdish gangs. And that's sort of really basically Afghan, aren't they?
Right.
And it's horrendous. There's parts of Wallsend you daren't even go into. And, you know, they are holding up these girls in their flats. They're not prostitutes. They're used as sex slaves. They've got their names tattooed over their side, just like they do. You can't get any traction with the police. I've involved Maggie Oliver. She's been great because I know her anyway. And I'm now like, I am pushing and pushing and pushing. And I've absolutely raised Cain up there because the residents had contacted the opposition, the Tory guy, And he's calling for an immediate extraordinary council meeting with the Labour councillors to raise this. I said, well, if it doesn't, you're going to have to go to the media because it's outrageous that these girls, the police aren't checking the addresses, that we know where they are. They're not going to look at the Uber records where you know who they're taking, who's driving. They won't do. They're just. I mean, it's this two-tier policing. It's absolutely shocking what's happening.
Yeah,
shocking.
It really is. And you talk about the Labour government being a Marxist government. I mean, the front page of the Daily Mail today has got this headline: Greens plan to hand illegal migrants free house, a wage and NHS care. Already pro-drugs and porn. Now Polanski's party wants a world without borders. Well, I mean, that's already Labour Party policy. It's not as though, this is somehow a revolutionary idea from the Green Party. We already give the bloody illegal migrants a free house. We already give them the ability to make money as a wage, and we already give them free NHS care. So, to be honest, what's the difference?
I know, and I live in Woburn, right? I live down in Bedfordshire, and I kid you not, you go to A&E, and guess who goes through first?
Yeah, I know. Well, they have a protocol, don't they? They have a protocol. People have told me this because they've been sat in an A&E waiting for hours and hours and hours on end, and they see the police coming in with an illegal migrant walking straight to the front.
They go straight.
It's happening every day.
I know, they go straight to the front. I have seen it with my own eyes. It's not propaganda. It's absolutely true. It's awful. I was in a school, because I do a lot of training in schools, right?
Yeah.
I was in a school in a nice part of Hertfordshire, actually, last year. And last time I went there, 2 or 3 years before, there was about, I don't know, a couple of black kids, in each class. That's what happens. It's fine. But last time I went, I reckon there were about only 3 white children in every class. And they had a sum total of about 25 languages in a primary school that they were trying to deal with. I mean, how can your child who is English, English isn't in the main language anymore in this country, is it?
No. I mean, that's the thing. In parts of the country...
What my fear is, Mike, we are never going to be able to throttle back from this. This is my fear, that how are we going to claim back? How are we going to kick these buggers out? And how are we going to, get back on track? Yeah. And there's too many woke people in this country. If one of these people was actually, had their child stabbed and murdered like Rhiannon White, I do my own show now. I've got Siobhan White coming on. I know you had her on. Yeah. I mean, how would they feel if one of their children was stabbed, raped by an illegal migrant? I'm always being contacted by people. You go down to Heathrow, all those big hotels there that used to be beautiful hotels, they're all filled with migrants.
Yeah.
And they are going out and about with their sheesh pipes. There's a big primary school called the Cherry Lane Primary School underneath the subway. You come up, and all these geezers are there, and the head teacher has put mesh along the railings so they can't stand and stare at the kids, and they've ripped it all down. And then they with their sheesh pipes, they're touching up the girls, and no one does anything. I don't understand. I really don't understand. There's so much angst. There's so much anguish and anger about this. Why do we just lie down and let someone tickle us?
I know.
Aren't we just coming out and saying, and then of course if we do that, we get arrested.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, right? I put a piece out on Twitter the other day about how, it's about following on from that trigonometry comment I made about Oxford Street. And this bloke called Nick Cohen, right, who used to work for The Observer, said it was all bullshit. He said, oh, absolute rubbish. Anyone who lives in London knows it's not true, because he's from the left, right? And I'm going, oh, really? I guess what happened, I looked up Nick Cohen, and it turns out he was let go from The Observer after being accused of groping women in the newsroom. So I'm sorry, Mr. Cohen. We're not going to take anything you say particularly seriously, and we're going to out you as a bit of a pervert on national and international television. So, these people who are absolutely and utterly convinced that everything is great in Britain and that there isn't any violent crime. Migrants are not raping anybody. They're all contributing to this wonderfully diverse culture that we've got, because you can now get, Lebanese, what do you call it? A shisha pipe if you want one, and you can get some nice Lebanese food anytime you like. What a load of old cobblers, quite frankly.
It's dreadful. Now, a colleague of mine, he's called Julian King, and he does a lot with domestic abuse, and he's a paralegal. He does a lot with the family courts. But he has gone off on a tangent a bit, and he's doing a project called Safe Streets London. and he has got real footage of what's going on with these illegal migrants around Westminster Bridge. Now, I've said for the last 3 or 4 years, you go to Westminster, there's so much county lines going on there and drugs and all that sort of stuff. Westminster is rife. It's one of the worst areas. You wouldn't think so, but it is, because there's a lot of money around there, there's a lot of posh schools around there to be able to recruit the kids. But he has got videos of what is going on Westminster Bridge with his illegal migrants. And he's going to put it out soon. He's going to come on my show and show the videos that he's got where no police come near, nobody does anything. And it's outrageous what they're doing. It really is. I mean, I have no objection to decent people coming in who want to contribute, who want to be part of our society, but they don't want to be. There was a guy on Twitter the other day. I'm always being closed down on Twitter. Honestly, you've been again.
Quite right too. Shocking, absolutely shocking opinions you've got.
This guy said, "We haven't come here." No, what has he said? "We haven't come here to take part. We've come here to take over." And that is what people don't understand. I saw a wonderful interview the other day by Dr. Gavin Ashenden. Now, he's
great. We like him.
Do you know?
Yeah,
him?
we know. We've had him on the show. Yeah.
He did the most amazing, absolutely candid opinion and fact about Islam in this country. And he said, he converted. He was a chaplain, wasn't he, to the Queen, and he converted to Catholicism. And you should get him on again, because what he said about Islam in this country was absolutely frightening. And he's right. He said, if people don't stand up and do something and protect this country, you're not going to have a country to protect. And if you're not prepared to do it, then you've got to put up with the consequences.
Absolutely right. Last time we spoke to you, Marilyn, we had a good rant about the perverts involved in the kind of horrible, ghastly victimisation that Jeffrey Epstein got involved in. We've got a front page on The Sun this morning with both Peter Mandelson and Andrew. Disgraced Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been slapped with a riding ban. Royal aides fear him being seen grinning on horseback is a bad look while he's under a police investigation. Have a look at this. This is an American politician, Representative Thomas Massey, talking, I think, yesterday, Pooch, in the Capitol. Have a look.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Massey, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Congress created the Department of Justice. Congress funds the Department of Justice, and Congress is responsible for the oversight of the Department of Justice. When will we see justice? I'll tell you what I've not seen. I've not seen any arrests from the revelations in the Epstein files, over 3 million documents describing horrible things, describing unspeakable things, so much of it redacted. Over 24 people have resigned, CEOs, members of government worldwide, but I haven't seen any arrests or investigations here in the United States from this Department of Justice. Prince Andrew, Duke of York, who has since been stripped of his royalty, his royal titles, due to his affiliation with Jeffrey Epstein, has been arrested. Peter Mandelson, who previously served as UK's ambassador to the United States, resigned in disgrace from United Kingdom's House of Lords and the Labour Party, and he's been arrested. Former Prime Minister of Norway, Torbjorn Jagland, has been charged. But we don't see any charges, arrests, or investigations in the United States. What do we see? We see our FBI director celebrating in the locker room at the Olympics overseas. It's fine to be proud of this country, but we should be proud of this country because we have a system of justice that works, and yet we do not. Who are the men that should be investigated? I'll name them right here. Leon Black. You don't even have to see past the redactions to see that this man needs to be investigated. Jess Staley, accused of terrible things. It's right there in the files. Why is he not being investigated? And Leslie Wexner, why did the FBI list him as a co-conspirator in their own documents in a child sex trafficking case, and then tell him, according to him, that they had no questions for him? Why is that? Well, the Epstein Files Transparency Act requires the DOJ and the FBI to disclose to us their internal memos and emails about how they made those decisions, whether to prosecute or not prosecute. Yet they have not delivered those memos. And we still don't have the memos and documents and emails from 2008 to explain why Jeffrey Epstein was given such a light sentence in what would have been an open and shut case of child sex trafficking, which allowed him to go back and recommit these terrible crimes, create hundreds of more victims, and ensnare so many other people in his conspiracy. Where are those documents that describe those decisions? We need justice. We want the Department of Justice to get to work, and that's what they need to do now.
Fantastic speech there made in Congress by Representative Thomas Massey. He's right, isn't he? Because, I mean, apparently in America, they can't find anybody to arrest. Apparently nobody's done anything there.
I mean, it's so transparently obvious, isn't it? The corruption. I mean, Epstein had his tentacles all into everybody's lives, so many lives, the width and breadth, and he just wormed his way into top brass people. What I find extraordinary is when you go back 2 or 3 weeks and you see the photographs, like the lovely one of Andrew spread-eagled over that poor woman, how repulsive, and other stuff. When you look at that, he must have had hidden cameras everywhere, so that if anybody didn't play his game, he would have exploited them, he would have blackmailed them. And it's the corruption's in America, the corruption's over here. Did you see the other day that, the private jets that he flew in here, the logs that are legal, you have to have a log when people are on your flight, they've all been got rid of. Oh, how funny is that? How and as for Andrew, I mean, oh, goodness me, he is a revolting prig. He's a spoiled little brat. And he's just repulsive. He's a bully. He's just disgusting lump of. No, I'm not going to say it. I could.
You're absolutely right though, because what on earth is the point of? What's the point of him?
And they were told that he would swear at them. He had any old women he liked him, which was, he should. I mean, why people still call him Prince? I mean, he's just a knob. He's horrible, and it's typical of entitled, wealthy, arrogant men who are narcissistic. It won't be. Look at what was his name? Harrods man.
Mohammed Al Fayed. Yeah.
He and his brothers were doing. They think they're entitled to violate anyone they feel. And Epstein. Just. I mean, I think that thing of Mandelson in his underpants just grossed me out.
Oh, you've just reminded me of that. That's terrible, isn't it?
But honestly, why can't someone drive a truck through this? This story, you've only seen the tip of the iceberg, and this has got legs to run. You're not. I actually feel sorry for the King and William and Kate, because this is one revolting man who is a spoilt brat who did what he liked. His blooming ex-wife is no better. She's a parasite. And the 2 girls, who I feel sorry for them. I mean, some people are innocent in this. And I mean, this man who said he doesn't sweat, I bet he's sweating now.
Yeah, I don't want to think about that either. I just don't want to. I don't want to think about any of it. It's horrible. On the front page, you've got Mandelson, this 72-year-old man. I mean, what are they? Children? You'd think that, they would know better. Mandelson has clearly spent his entire life being a complete and utter pervert, a complete scumbag, and a complete and utter disaster. And yet, Keir Starmer thought it was a great idea to bring him back into government.
Well, you have to worry, don't you? Anytime he says, oh, I fully support this person.
Yeah, full confidence.
He's just signed your death warrant.
I know. It's absolutely shocking.
Honestly, Mike, if it wasn't so serious, I mean, it is got to the point where it's comedic, but it's actually really serious. Starmer's dangerous. He really, truly is dangerous.
I believe that. These people are all dangerous. And I'll tell you why they're dangerous, because they're coming for you and I. It's not just that they want to be in power. They want to shut you down, right? And this is a good opportunity for you to tell us where we can find your show, by the way. Tell us where we can find your show.
Well, I've got my own charity, which is Freedom from Abuse, and that's to prevent harm to children, which I'm passionate about. if you look up Freedom from Abuse, you'll see my story. And that's how I came to be a media whore, really, because when I started,
You'd be both, darling.
Bugger, actually, he literally abused 3 of my sons, and he walked free from a court. So don't tell me the courts aren't corrupt, they are.
No.
And he walked free from court with a £200 fine, right? And I thought, oh, I don't think so, you're going to jail, mate. And I was threatened with contempt of court. I don't care, care. And I did manage to get him to go down. That was fine. And from that moment on, I became this media voice, right? But then I got involved with TNT Media, and then that all went pear-shaped. And I got in touch with at unprecedented.tv. And what I wanted to do, I wanted to do my own show, which they kind of gave me. And my own show is called Heart and Soul, right? And I get so fed up with all the stuff and the trauma I've had in my own life, which, I reckon I've lived around this clock 4 times. I wanted people to come on who have got a real story to tell, where people don't want to understand other people's reality. So I had 3 dads walking on the other day, and they come on for an hour and they talk. It's their show, basically. You say what you want out there. Right. The show is recorded. It's yours to use as you want. I've got Siobhan White coming on. I've had a wonderful woman I know, Professor Jane Monckton-Smith, who spoke about domestic homicide and domestic suicide. I want those gritty subjects that people want to say, oh, it couldn't happen to me. I had a guy called Charlie's Promise on the other day, Martin Crosser, whose lovely young son went to a party and was stabbed to death by this awful boy, 16-year-old now, gone down for life. I mean, and I lived in the village next door to where that happened, and I found it in Sussex. And oh my gosh, it was one of the hardest interviews I've done. But this is life. You don't know. You get the knock on the door. It could be you tomorrow. And, and I just get so, I wish I did stay calm. I am calm, but I get enraged by stupid idiots.
Yes.
And I'm going to get someone, and I feel sorry for Ziggy.
I know.
I love animals. I love animals. And let me just tell you something about my
Poor
psychiatrist.
Ziggy, his paw.
Oh, no, bless him. Oh, look at him.
I know.
Oh, love him. I've got a black one like that.
Have you? Very beautiful. What's his name?
After all this happened, with anybody's got trauma, let me tell you this. This is a little clue that I was given by a psychiatrist, because after my children were sexually abused, then I had all the stress of getting that into the court, which I did, and I wrote a book about all the emotions I went through for other parents that were non-abusing parents that found their children had been groped by some pervert, right? And I was going to take my own life. I had the date booked and everything when I was going to do it, when all the family were out. I thought, oh, whoopee-dee. Anyway, there was a guy at this dinner party I went to. He said, I know what you're going to do, so don't do it. Don't give him that much respect. And I ran out of the house and I didn't know what to do. I thought, I only know how to live. I only know how to die. I don't know how to live. So I went to see a psychiatrist, and he said, I'm not going to medicate you, but he said, what someone's done, and when anybody has these abuse situations and things where their children have been killed, whatever, you're not expecting it. You've basically been thrown out of an aircraft without a parachute. And the problem is, if you were physically broken, you'd be head to toe in a plaster cast, and everybody would be running around helping you, opening the doors, all that stuff. But all your brokenness is on the inside, and no one can see it. And that's the really sad part. Now, you can't have tomorrow back, because I said, I want my life back. No, you can't have your life back. Unless you can only move forward. And he said to me, and I would say this to anybody out there, he said to me, right, tell me 3 things that defined you, because this abuse, this horrific abuse to your children cannot define you, and it mustn't define them. So go back, the first 3 things that you defined you as a child. That's easy. I said music, because I was head of music, animals, and nature. He said, well, that's fine. Go and buy yourself a puppy, because I'd become agoraphobic. I wouldn't go out. And the puppy would teach you trust and all this, that, and the other. And bit by bit, I got better, and oh my God, I wouldn't want to go back. No. And people tell you in the NHS, when you recover. No, you don't recover. You can heal, but you don't recover. Yeah. No one that's had trauma goes back to the person they were before. And I don't want to go back there anyway. But I've been so harmed and hurt by human beings that I actually prefer animals. Where you stand with animals. They love you unconditionally.
Yeah, they're amazing.
And if anybody else wants to know how to get over trauma, I would thoroughly recommend an audio version, because you can't read the print, it's too small. It's called The Body Keeps the Score, and it's written by Bessel van der Kolk. I would urge anyone to get the audio. It tells you if you hold trauma in your body, what it does to your body later on in life, and it's true. So I didn't mean to start talking about
It's all right. Listen,
and end up talking about trauma.
we could talk for hours, Marilyn, but we haven't got hours, I'm afraid. But brilliant to hear from you. Great to see you. And they say that in America, don't they? If you want to do, if you're in Washington, D.C. and you're a politician, if you want a friend, get a dog. Because, you know, the people are so horrible that you don't want to have anything to do with them. Let me ask you one final question before I let you go. Before I let
spelled backwards is God.
God, yeah, well, exactly. Before I let you go, we've got a poll going out at the moment. Who would you rather have lunch with, Zach Polanski, Nigel Farage, Donald Trump, or Sydney Sweeney?
No, I'd rather go out with my dog and have lunch, actually, at the pub.
There's a lot of people say they'd like to have lunch with you. Listen, you'll have to come in the studio one day.
I'm up for that.
Come down to London. We'll look after you, and you know, we'll bring you a nice dog to sit with, and you can enjoy. Yeah. Pooch will bring his dogs in. Because he's got two lovely dogs. Listen, great to see you. Marilyn Hawes, thank you very much indeed. What a woman. A lot of people saying, this woman is absolutely on fire. She's brilliant. And she is brilliant. She's absolutely fantastic. You don't want to mess with her. We've got lots more to do. We've got Ellie Hodges coming up very shortly. We've also got Alan Miller, I think, if he's in the house very shortly as well. We should first, though, get some news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning, all. Here's the news with me, Edward Hughes. Good morning. Today marks a major change at UK borders. The Electronic Travel Authorization, ETA scheme is now fully enforced. From February 25th, visa-free visitors from dozens of countries, including the US, Canada, Australia, and many others, must obtain this digital pre-travel permit online or risk being denied boarding. Dual nationals are also affected in some cases, needing to use their British passport to enter. On the international front, the UK announced one of its largest sanctions packages against Russia yet, nearly 300 new measures targeting oil revenues and military suppliers, exactly 4 years after the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Downing Street called out Putin's recent nuclear-related claims as absurd distractions. Elsewhere, police have wrapped up searches at Prince Andrew's former Royal Lodge home following his recent arrest, while Lord Mandelson was released on bail after his own misconduct probe. Energy bills are set to drop in April, and NHS cancer treatment rankings have been revealed, showing big variations across trusts. That's your quick UK roundup. Stay informed. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Hughes, with the news. We've got much more to do. We've only got about, 20 minutes left in the show? Amazing. We've nearly finished the show. But we've got to talk to Alan Miller, who's up there with the Together Declaration, of course, Take Back Democracy. I wish we could, Alan. Good to see you. You're up in Gorton and Denton. You've been doing some very valuable campaigning and just kind of questioning what the candidates are all doing. What are you finding up there, man? Morning.
Well, first of all, good morning, Mike. First of all, what we've been finding there is that many people are fed up and sick of the entire situation they find themselves in. There's a lot of poverty. There's not a lot of employment. There's a problem we know that we've got in Britain with sluggish growth and the fact that we can't seem to build things and get things done. And quite a lot of people, I mean, we're speaking to the candidates, the ones that would speak to us. I should say that we've gone out to everyone. And we tried really hard to speak to Angeliki, who is the Labour candidate. She did not want to speak to us. The Prime Minister was parachuted in for a very protected PR stunt, but did not want to meet any constituents. We tried to get in there, but could not. But what people are saying, first of all, people are saying, well, it's been a Labour stronghold for a long time, 100 years.
Yeah.
And that's not the case now. People are furious. But people are saying, why is everyone so interested now? Where's everyone been? We've waited years. No one's really been around this. There's a bit of that. There's also a bit of excitement, right? So it's got to be said that there is a dynamic behind the Green Party. I mean, the Green Party, I thought the Green Party used to be about the environment. I know that we've had a lot of battles around the questions of net zero, low traffic neighborhoods. But now it seems that they're much more of a sectarian organisation, kind of pushing tribalism. But I've got to say, Mike, they had a very good ground game there. They had scores of volunteers, or it should be said, pretty upper middle class white young people who are coming in and out throughout the day that at their in Denton in their high street office. I did an interview with Tom, who is the kind of lead campaign organizer there, who is briefing everyone about what to say. And they really see this as a fight between themselves and Reform. And at least that's how they're presenting it. And that Labour's no longer in the running, but it's between Reform and the Greens. And there are boards out, a lot of Green, some Labour boards and Reform boards out on the street. Gorton and Denton, in Denton, there's around 40,000, 38,000 constituents, and in Gorton, a similar amount. And it's, 50% of the voters don't come out. So we at Together have been going around giving out leaflets, talking to people on the street, talking to candidates, but really trying to encourage people. We've got signatories in the constituency that we've sent emails to encourage people to get out and vote, and to ask the candidates where they stand on the key issues that we think are so important, on free speech, on the right to have a jury and appeal, scrap digital ID completely, one login. You've got to have the ability not to do it. At no to net zero, it's impoverishing, and to make sure that we, as I say, have free speech, and that we take back democracy together, so that the people are engaged in things and not just having things done to us. So we're encouraging people to go out and vote on that basis. We caught up with a lot of people. We spoke to Matt Goodwin, his team. He's from Reform. He's the Reform candidate. His team were out in the rain. I mean, people have been working really hard there. He had a lot of people out with him knocking on the doors. It's quite close, it looks like. I think the crucial thing is there's a couple of things to really recognise. I think had Andy Burnham have stood, the Labour mayor, he may well have got in, and nothing's inevitable, but he's got a bit of brand value in terms of name, and people see him in a different way to how they see Keir Starmer. There is a sense of that. But there's also a sense that many people, and it's a bit like with the elections with Donald Trump, President Trump, many people feel like they've just been left behind, not being spoken to. Then you've got a situation where, I'm sure your viewers have seen some of this, but the Green Party are putting out videos that are really remarkable.
Let me just interrupt you for a second there. We played that yesterday, the Urdu one in particular, which was extraordinary. I don't think many people had said to me, I've never seen anything like this in a British election at all, ever. What's people's reaction been to that?
Well, they've put out another one in Bangla to do it. And, you see Zach Polanski is calling everyone a Nazi from the Daily Mail to everybody else. And I had the campaign organizer who's briefing all the campaigners tell me, when I asked him, did he agree with Hannah Spencer, who's the candidate's view, that she said to Matt Goodwin that when he asked her, why are these things happening? Why are Islamists attacking us in Britain? You haven't asked these questions. She said, yes, we have. We have asked. This was about Manchester Arena. And he said, well, why are they? And she said, because of people like you causing division. And he said, well, are you blaming me? And then she started to say, well, you're trying to put words in my mouth. But it's exactly what she was saying. Now, I asked him, what did he think about that? And he said to me that the reason why we are having attacks on us, like Manchester Arena, like London Bridge, 7-7, all of that, is because we are othering people, that we're not being welcoming enough. And that the othering of people are not being welcoming enough. That's the reason why radical jihadi terrorists are blowing us up at concerts and attacking us. Now, I think that's astonishing. It's on a video. People can see it. We put it out. But you see, they've got dozens of campaigners going in and out. And, you think that the issue might be about Gaza rather than about Gorton. And so the question is, there's about 30% of a Muslim community there. And I've worked and lived in areas with significant Muslim communities. I don't think there's any reason to be sectarian. I think Brexit showed that, for instance, in Brick Lane, the Brick Lane restaurateurs, many of them came out and voted for Brexit. They understood their interest in that, and that there was something exceptional and special about becoming British. And doing it legally and getting a visa and paying your taxes and and being proud of the nation. And yet this discussion has now degenerated somewhat, I think, into really what we can see in other countries, a kind of sectarian push, and presenting, actually, when he talks about othering, what I actually have seen the Green Party doing is it looks like they're talking to white working people as the other, as though, they and people who want to promote a more universal outlook around key British values and sovereignty and democracy and freedom, free speech, rather than Islamophobia laws and such like, that they are being othered, we are being othered. But you see, in the end, and as the Labour Party's found out, you can't win elections just on a certain demographic. And there's still 50% who are not coming out. So I think that for everyone in Britain, we all have to think about how we get some more of that other 50% out. People who've become so sense of just what is the point? Right. Because there is something new that's happening, the populist moment. And I think it's really exciting, Mike. I think that we've got a first time in 100 years since the Labour Party, and we should remember, for everyone having this big noisy discussion on what they call the right, between restore and advance and reform and everything, people saying, well, you couldn't ever possibly take people from the Tories and everything. We look back in history, the Liberal Party mocked the launch of the Labour Party, but some of the Liberals went into the Labour Party and it transformed the relationship with working people to voting and to Britain. Now, whatever anyone thinks about what the Labour Party's become, that was significant historically. We now have seen, for the first time, it was only a minute ago, people saying you could never have another political party, it's only as it is. We saw what happened with the Social Democrat Party years ago, and we've not really seen anything new. Now we've got a situation where there is something new. It's an exciting moment, and there's lots of disruption. And I think there's to what extent that's going to be taken up in Gorton and Denton, we'll see. But I think it's a travesty that in the heart of what was part of our industrial revolution, we've got a train line that only goes once a week, and last Saturday it didn't go in Denton.
No, I mean the whole situation is completely mad. But it is, I think you're right. It's a watershed moment, and I've got to let you go because we're running out of time. But great to see you. Thanks very much indeed. We'll see you soon in the studio, I'm sure. Alan Miller there reporting into us from Gorton and Denton, where the by-election is going to be taking place tomorrow. So it's a massive, massive moment for reform. Huge moment for the Greens. The Labour Party possibly coming in third. Some people saying they're doing better than everybody thinks. But let's talk about the state of reform right now and the state of the right anyway in general. Ellie Hodges is here. Ellie, very good morning to you.
Good morning,
Very
Mike.
good to see you. Interesting what Alan Miller was saying there. It's a very big moment now for the right, isn't it? Because you've got reform in a position to possibly get a 9th MP if they manage to win this by-election. They might not, because the Greens are really pushing the Green kind of agenda and also the Islamic agenda with the sort of Asian part of that area. Yeah. Reform, you work quite closely with Reform. You're with the New Culture Forum as well. How are they feeling? Are they feeling positive about this particular thing? If they don't win it, are they going to be all right?
Well, I think with the Gorton and Denton by-election, it's really interesting because no matter who wins, it's going to be Greens or Reform. Yeah. So it's showing how politics has changed so much in the past couple of years. It's no longer Labour and Conservatives, it is Green and Reform. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, in terms of Reform more generally at the moment, there's just been press conferences all the time at the moment, and I've managed to go to the majority of them. So they announced their shadow cabinet. Well, they're calling it their shadow cabinet. Everyone always says to me, they're not shadow, but that's what they're calling it.
Well, they kind of are, really, because, I mean, if you think about it, people have said to me, if you were to ask most people in this country to name any member of the shadow cabinet on the Tory front bench, they couldn't really do it. They know who Kemi Badenoch is, but they don't know anybody else, do they?
Yeah,
Whereas Reform have actually got some pretty big names now.
Definitely, and I think that it's a big step forward for Reform as well, because by giving out all of these positions, so you've got Zia Youssef as Home Secretary, for example, you have Robert Jenrick, Shadow Chancellor, Richard Tice, Business, Energy and Trade. By giving these people these roles, and you've got Suella Braverman as well as Education, by giving these roles out, it means that hopefully they come out with more detailed policy, which is what a lot of people want, because they feel like at the moment it's just everything sounds great, and they're good at giving really good sound bites, but what is it they're actually going to do? How are they going to implement these things? So hopefully we see more of that come out. But it's been really interesting actually seeing these people be given these new roles, and Reform are definitely trying to look more serious. And I think they do look more credible now they've given out these roles. So Zia Yusuf, as Home Secretary, gave out some very kind of radical things, is what he'd say. He wants to be seen as radical. So they're going to like pass this Illegal Migration Mass Deportation Act. And he was branding it as kind of a UK ICE-style thing like America.
Right.
I don't think that's the best thing to do, just because there's so much controversy around it.
Although a lot of people believe that what ICE is doing is right. You know, yes,
Yeah.
they've had a couple of problems in Minneapolis, and yes, you know, a couple of people have been shot dead. But in America, people get shot dead all the time. I mean, this is why there's a bit of pearl clutching going on for me.
Yeah.
You know, because the police in America shoot people every day, right? And if you are in a position to be stopped by anybody in law enforcement in America and you drive your car at them, they're going to shoot you.
Yeah, I don't think it's the concept of it isn't wrong at all, but it's just the way it's been implemented hasn't been the best. But yeah, he announced some really kind of tough things as well. So I think this is what everyone wanted. So the complete termination of universal credit to foreign nationals, suspension of issuance for countries that refuse to take visa issuance for countries that refuse to take back, you know, deported criminals. So places like Pakistan, Afghanistan, that have in the past just refused to take back any people that we've deported.
Right.
So I think that's a really good step forward.
I mean, I guess the problem with the universal credit argument, and I'm not saying that I disagree with what he wants to do, but if you say to people you can't get any benefits, what happens then? You know, are they still allowed to live here without benefits? Are they given an order to go to work? I mean, how does it play out?
I think that'll be interesting. But what Reform and all of the right-wing parties always say is that once you stop the benefits for people who, especially illegal migrants, for example, they will stop coming because it's an incentive. But he also really cracked down on extremism, which is really interesting. So he's prescribing the Muslim Brotherhood, for example, which I think is long overdue, and the IRGC as terrorist organisations, which I think is really good. And all of this kind of like crackdown on extremism is really interesting because it's coming from Zia Yusuf, who is Muslim himself as well. But I think that's
and his parents came here as first-generation immigrants, right?
And I think that's a reason why he's actually being more radical, is because he doesn't want to be, you know, a lot of the right, I think, wrongly say, you know, about Layla Cunningham and Zia Yusuf, oh, they shouldn't be part of Reform because they're Muslim. And I think that's awful, not at all.
Yeah, but that's not, I don't think that's a legitimate concern.
I agree.
And also, it's not really a defensible position, I don't think, unless you want to be a racist.
Yeah,
You want to say to somebody, you can't be here because you're not a Christian. You know, it's crap, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, absolutely. And this is the thing, that Reform pride themselves on believing in a meritocracy, believing that no matter who you are, what religion you are, what race you are, what sexuality you are, if you subscribe to our values, then you can be a part of us. And I think that's the right approach to have. And we've seen recently, you know, the right split into all of these factions. And I think we're seeing a rise in, you know, ethno-nationalism and a lot of people that are becoming much
which
more
is a bit
extreme.
unhealthy, isn't it?
It is. But I mean, Reform could use it to their advantage because they're getting out all of the people that they deem too extreme for them.
Well, I think that's an interesting point because it does give Nigel Farage the ability to be in the centre. And I've had this argument with people loads of times that, you know, who say, oh, they've become kind of Tory 2.0. But they kind of need to become that because they won't get elected by a mass majority of people unless they're somewhere in the middle. And I know that there are plenty of people that would disagree with that. I just think that's a sensible approach, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's really frustrating as well when some people go, oh, Reform aren't, you know, extreme enough. They're not radical enough. They have to win an election. They can't suddenly start having these really fringe views. And that's what I said when, you know, Rupert Lowe launched his new party, and I went on and spoke about that because I think that it's just really, really unhelpful. And
did you get a lot of abuse for that?
Yes, of course.
They're quite good at abusing people,
yeah,
aren't they?
I mean,
Rupert Lowe crowd.
I mean, X has become not a very nice place at all. I mean, it's just full of people that are right-wing, actually. So the majority of my hate is just from people that are further right than me, not actually from left-wing people anymore.
And they accuse you of being a traitor to your cause, a traitor to white people and all of this stuff. And it's like, no. You know, Rupert Lowe may be a very estimable individual. He's an MP. He got elected. You know, he didn't get to be leader of Reform and he didn't like it, and so now he's the leader of another party. But he can't do it on his own in the end. And I mean, you know, Reform are finding that it's quite difficult to find clever, interesting, you know, experienced people to run for office. He's going to find it even harder, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And I understand why some people do have criticisms of them letting in Tories, but they do need to build their team, and they need to have people that have experience in government, and that's the argument that they make all the time, is that you can't just have a party full of people who have no idea what's going on in government. And it's not an easy task either, coming into office, and it's helpful to have those people that can see around those corners and see what's coming.
Right. I think so. And in terms of what happens next, I mean, after tomorrow, we all wake up Friday morning, depending on who's won the seat. Does Reform have a different agenda depending on whether or not they win? I mean, if they win, obviously that's brilliant, and they'll suddenly have 9 MPs instead of 8. But if they don't win, what's the message going to be coming from sort of their party HQ, do you think?
I don't think it's too much of an issue, because if they don't win, it will be the Greens. And I think that, again, just shows how unpopular Labour are, which is their main kind of, what they're branding as their main competition, I say, and what they're criticising the most. So I think that it won't do too much damage, but it's still not the best result for them, is it, if Matt Goodwin doesn't win? No.
And I mean, I think because people who are not, in their camp, for example, Dan Hodges, who's got a big piece in the paper today, about the state of this government and how useless they are.
Yeah.
But he's basically said, it will be a major setback for Reform if they don't win it. And I think that's what people will say, rightly or wrongly,
Yeah, a lot of it depends on how the media reacts to it as well. I think that the media play a much bigger role in this than how Reform decide to kind of brand how they're going to respond to this.
Right.
But it will be interesting if they do, lose, what will happen, because the polls aren't certain. It could go either way. It's not, a definite Green win, a definite Reform win.
Right. And if the Greens do win, it could well be just because people from Labour have decided to bet on them because it's a kind of a spoiler vote, isn't it?
I think
keep the Reform people out vote.
Reform have really cut through in Gorton and Denton as well, campaigning on, you do know that the Greens are going to legalise drugs. That's something that they've really cut through on, because I think that, I can't remember who I was speaking to Reform, but they said, we knocked on the door and it was like an older woman, and she didn't know that, and she was like, I don't want kids smoking drugs at the end of my road. I don't want that. So I think that's something that they've gone in quite hard on. But you have Zach Polanski going up to Gorton and Denton today. You had Keir Starmer make a rare appearance, actually, which was very funny.
But he didn't go and see anyone, did he?
He just went into a closed-off room with selected people, gave someone a hug and went home.
Yeah. Somebody said to me, actually, he probably wasn't even in Gorton and Denton. He might have just gone to a room somewhere in Southwark, near the Parliament
I wouldn't even
building.
be surprised at this point.
No, I know. Absolutely hopeless. So anyway, we'll see what goes on. Meanwhile, we prepare for, I guess, the May elections as well, the local council elections, which again, I don't think Advance UK, because I spoke to Ben Habib a couple of weeks ago, and I said, now that all these elections are back on, are you going to be putting up a load of candidates? He said, no, we're not, because we just don't have them.
Yeah.
And the same goes presumably for Restore Britain. They don't have them either.
They don't. And I think the next couple of months will be really interesting in seeing how Reform brand themselves and what they really stand for, because as you're seeing from these press conferences, when they have these now individual roles, they're coming out with more detailed things in what they believe in. So Richard Tice had a press conference yesterday and trying to understand what their economic policy is, for example, because on some things they're quite free market, then other side of things they want to nationalise certain things. So it's really telling to see kind of what direction they're going in, and I think voters will definitely see more detailed policy coming from Reform.
Sure, okay. Ellie Hodges, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mike.
We're coming up to nearly the end of the show. Coming up after the show, basically, we're going to do Plank of the Day, and we're also going to have a look at my little meltdown, which will no doubt be about the whole by-election situation up there in Gorton and Denton. But I'll tell you what we are going to do. Should we play a bit of Alistair Campbell? Because we're going to do Alistair Campbell as Plank of the Day. He's over in Ukraine, believe it or not, at the moment. The man who he can't stay away from war zones, can he? He loves the war. He started one some years ago. Have a look at this.
Hi there, it's Alistair here, and I'm in Maidan Square. I've been in Kyiv for the last few days. Sadly, Rory couldn't join me, but we'll be doing a podcast later this morning. We'll be going out later today, overnight. And we had a fascinating few days talking to politicians and diplomats and military and, above all, real people. And it is just absolutely extraordinary to be here. 4th anniversary, over 1 million casualties, 350,000 dead Russians, not far off 100,000 dead Ukrainians. And here in Kyiv, we had a couple of alerts last night. it's reasonably warm today. It's about 2 degrees, but recent weeks been absolutely freezing, and Putin's been destroying lots of the energy infrastructure. Anyway, there's lots and lots to talk about, but I just feel it's so important to kind of remember, and also just to see for yourself the scale of what's gone on. Just behind me there, you can probably see lots of flags and photos of soldiers who've been killed. I saw one yesterday who was born the same week as my daughter Grace, and that sort of just, again, brought it home in a really, really sort of visceral way. So much to talk about on the podcast, geopolitics and all the rest of it. And we've been filming lots and lots of content that we'll be putting out over the coming days and weeks. But anyway, if you've been wondering why I've been so quiet over the last few days, now you know. Bye-bye.
Alistair Campbell, eh? I mean, he just won't go away, will he? Luckily, Rory Stewart's not with him. Apparently he's busy. I don't know what he's doing, probably counting his money or something. Anyway, we'll talk about that coming up, the plank of the day. Speaking of which, I've got this, which has come in the post bag. Many, many people have sent all sorts of great stuff in, but there's so much of it, we haven't had a chance to open it. But this, we need to open because it's come from Rachel, who is a woman we spoke to a few weeks ago. In fact, I think probably maybe the first or second week of our show. And she's a woman who had trouble with her mother and the NHS, you know, trying to get her mother looked after properly, because what's happened is that she managed to commission a brand new Plank of the Week sign. And so here it is. Look at that. This was especially made for this show. So we'll unveil it properly for all of you at the end of the week when we have Plank of the Week. But what a fantastic thing. Isn't that great? Oh, hang on, turn it that way. There you go. Anyway, there we are. Plank of the Week. Rachel, thank you very much indeed. I'm not sure exactly who made it, or the name of the person who made it, but I'm sure you'll let me know. I don't know. No, there's nothing in there. No, there's just... It's already been opened, you see. So anyway, there we are. Super chats to finish up with. John says this. Do the ETA border rules apply to illegals? What's the ETA? I don't know. Simon, as ever, thank you very much indeed for your super chat. Tally-ho, another one. Thank you. Very kind. You can do that, of course, and we will read your message out. But do put a message with it. Mike, what a horrible way to end the show. Alistair Campbell, says Andrew. Well, it's not a horrible way to end the show. It's showing you precisely what is going on. Mike and Donald commenting live on PMQs, having a few vinos would be hilarious, says Hamish. Yeah, well, Donald's not here this week, thankfully. But maybe we'll do that one day. We'll do a PMQs live and, have a couple of glasses of fizz while we do it. We shall see. Anyway, listen, been great to see you all today. Thank you very much indeed. Some of you might have noticed, some of you, not many of you have actually, that behind me over there, the Mike Graham Show light has gone out. We came in this morning and for some reason Pooch couldn't fire it up. I don't know what's going on. We're going to have to try and get it repaired. But for now, you can see it. It's just not illuminated. So we'll see if we can get that sorted out for tomorrow. Meanwhile, don't do anything stupid. Remember not to be a complete and utter plank yourself. And we will see you back here, same time tomorrow, 7 a.m. On the Mike Graham Show. Have a lovely day.
Remember, despite all of the others out there, it's always the others. Don't be a plank.